Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News. I'm Nick Sertivant on WCNC Plus. That's important to say. Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thank you for joining us. It is Thursday, guys. Get excited, James, Carlene. It's Thursday. We made it after a busy week. Look, the week is not over. We still have a busy day ahead of us, but I just want to acknowledge that we made it to Thursday. So we're almost there at the weekend. I hope you guys are doing well, you guys being James and Carlene.
Hi.
Hello. It's Friday Eve.
Friday Eve.
We're so close.
I used to say Friday Eve a lot until I messed it up and started saying Friday Eve on Wednesday. And so
That's hump day, Nick.
I know. I was getting,
You get your days mixed
Getting
up.
my days mixed up, so I'm just going to stick with the actual day of the week.
Yeah.
I mentioned this. We have a lot going on. Busy. Look, we have, we're going to update you with weather because we're weather alert. It's still hot outside. We're going to go to D.C. For the White House briefing. There's a live look at the White House. Also, we will have a State Department briefing as well, but we want to get over to New York because happening right now, New York Mayor Eric Adams is holding a press conference. He just walked out moments ago. He's right there left of your screen. Yeah. We're expected to hear an announcement, little details about that exact announcement. Now, this comes just a couple of days after the Democratic mayoral primary there in New York City. Let's take a listen in to what appears, the sign reads, "Re-elect Eric Adams." So it appears to be a campaign-related announcement. But let's listen in for ourselves.
And your holy name, that you would give us a spirit of unity, a spirit of justice, and a spirit of brotherly love, Father God, as we go forward to make New York the best that it's ever been. There are challenges on every hand, oh God. Many we cannot see. There are forces that are working in the dark hours, Father God, to tear down everything that's being built. But now, Father, here we are in the signs of our unity to stand up for the man that you have set for this hour. Lord God, we ask now that you cover him and protect him. As you promised in the 91st division of Psalms that you would give angels charge over him to keep him in all of his ways, that his foot would not dash against a stone. You promised that one way an enemy would come, but they would have to flee 7 other ways. Now we stand this morning unified, Heavenly Father, not wishy-washy, not double-minded, not fork-tongued, but we stand in unity to move this agenda forward, an agenda that our ancestors are shouting hallelujah from the anthems. And Heavenly Father, our ancestors are shouting, move forward, my sons and daughters. The race is not finished yet, but our graces and our prayers have gone before you. We pray this morning, Father God, that a fresh wind would blow over New York, a wind of hope, a wind of love, and a wind of justice for your people. We ask all of these things in your name, and it is for your sake that we pray. Amen. I was asked to say a couple of words after I prayed, and I thought back to the moment where I met the Honorable Eric L. Adams. He wasn't mayor then, he was borough president in Brooklyn, and we sat down at a cafe and had lunch, and he said, "Who are you and where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm Chantel Wright, and I'm from Chicago. Right. And we do things a certain way in the Midwest. My grandmother taught us whoever you go to the dance with, that's who you come home with." We were also taught that you don't drink bush tea for someone else's fever. What does that mean, Bishop? I'm so glad that you asked. I can't be mad about something that he may have been displeasing to another community about. I can only cheer for that which has happened in my community. And what's happened in my community is in the Rangel projects, there has not been a shooting in the last 2 years because of his initiatives. I can only cheer for those things that are making a difference for those who have nonprofits. Many have benefited from the dysfunction and the dysfunction that's been happening at the governmental level. Now we can go in, get 50% of our contracts, and do the business that supports our community.
4 more years. 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 4 more years.
And so I stand this morning in my own voice, with my own fortitude, and I stand because of what has been able to be done in our community. And my prayers moving forward is that he will continue to do the work. Houses of worship are no longer being turned into restaurants and high-end houses for the wealthy, but they're now being able to house members of the community and members of congregations that would normally have to close their doors because of the City of Hope. I am so grateful to stand here today in my own voice and say thank you so much, Mayor Adams, for all that you've done.
All right.
Now that was a prayer and testament. But all right. We need prayer from all sectors, no matter your belief. And right now, I'm going to ask Rabbi Moshe Melamed to lead us in continued prayer.
Good morning. I'm honored and excited to be here today with you, representing the Jewish community. During the mayor's first term, we had and continue to have an unprecedented relationship. Our community has gone through very, very trying times, and only through this relationship with the mayor and his fabulous team have we managed and continue to manage to overcome every challenge that we have faced. We look forward to re-electing His Honor, Eric Adams, to another 4 years in the greatest city of New York, the city we call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Be careful.
This mayor will not tolerate any hate crimes, no matter where it's from or who it's directed to. And in that spirit, I'm going to ask for Dr. Michael Britton to please come forward. Okay. Come on, Doctor.
I don't usually speak at rallies, but I'm here in my personal capacity as a mom, as a Latina immigrant, and as a Jewish faith leader who adores this city. Those of you who were born here might not realize it, but around the world, everybody dreams of New York City. This is the symbol of opportunity, of freedom, of diversity, of strength. And this is why I am here. I am joining the fight to make sure this amazing city continues to thrive and becomes an even better home for all of us. I was born in Argentina. I've seen what happens when politicians weaponize envy, when they use frustration to divide instead of lifting up. My family has lived what happens when socialist promises collapse economies and destroy lives.
Say that again. Say that again.
I'm going to say it in Spanish now. Nosotros los latinos entendemos muy bien cuando hay promesas socialistas. Solo fíjense lo que pasó en Cuba, lo que pasa en Venezuela, and we are not going to let this happen to this city, because we, and so many of us, we are here to build up and not to burn down. Other people talk about free everything, about scaling up the police, perfect utopians. Just trust the ideology. about your kids. You cannot afford luxury fantasies. And those who pay for those luxury fantasies are those least able to afford them. Let me say this again. Those who pay the price for those luxury fantasies are those least able to afford it. I want my children and yours to feel safe while riding the subway. I want us to walk freely in our streets, to pray in our houses of worship, to raise families in peace. And I say this as an American Jew who understands that Jewish safety is tied to the safety of my neighbors, the safety and the strength of all of us. When we, New York communities, are strong, we are all safer and freer. Look behind me. We need a real coalition, a diverse coalition of all religions, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Sikhs, Hindus, all religions, all races and ethnicities, Latinos, black, brown, Asian, white New Yorkers, standing together, not ignoring each other's fears, but building each other up. This is not about Democrats versus Republicans. This is about those who want to build and those who want to burn down. This is a fight for everything we care about, everything we yearn for as New Yorkers and as Americans. We don't need perfect promises. We need real and experienced leaders like Mayor Eric Adams, who is here uniting us instead of dividing us. Right. We need safety, we need sanity, we need each other. So, we have a fight ahead of us. But we are here, and we are ready to show up. So let's speak out, let's fight with everything we have got to make sure this amazing, amazing city stays in the hands of those who love it and who are ready to fight for it.
Beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
You know,
what's the button on this? The one that
Right there. In the front.
hello, New Yorkers. You know, we got all the boroughs represented, all the religions represented. Is Brooklyn in the house?
Yay!
Are my Brooklyn ministers here?
Yeah!
Are my Harlem ministers here? Are my Queens ministers here? That's what I'm talking about, and even Staten Island is represented. But you know, we've got groups here, but we've got a special guest, and I must acknowledge him, and that's Reverend Dr. Herbert Daughtry. We've got our groups here. We've got Aisha Sekou. We've also got Jackie Rowe Adams, Harlem Mother Save, and so many are here. Are my unions in the house? All right, I'm going to ask Bishop Dr. Keating Silva. Bishop, please come forward and send us on our way.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right there, you're watching live a press conference out of New York City as Mayor Eric Adams makes a campaign announcement. You see the signs there. We can put the context clues together. The sign in front says "Re-elect Eric Adams for mayor." You can see right there on our impact panel just some bullet points on who Eric Adams is, his resume so far. So we are expected to hear from him soon. So let's come back here at home. Let's check in with the weather. It's hot outside. Another hot day. Our last day
Yesterday
this
we had 100 degrees, the hottest day out of the year, and today it's still going to be hot. It's summertime, but it will be a couple of degrees cooler. It is absolutely gorgeous outside. Live look, lots of sunshine out there at Lake Norman. Right now we are sitting at 82 degrees, dew point 70 degrees, so it's definitely still muggy outside. It's making it feel like it's 86 as you're heading out the door. Our heat index, you can see it becomes a little higher up towards Statesville, 91 degrees. Remember, our heat index is what it feels like on your skin. It's a combination of our air temperature when you add in the humidity. Out towards Wadesboro, upper 80s, low 90s for Chirac. So another day of summer-like temperatures. You can see, though, up towards the mountains, feeling pretty good out there in Banner Elk. 80 degrees, lots of sunshine, 82 for our good friends in Blowing Rock. As we head out towards the foothills, we have 92 in Lenoir this afternoon and 94 in Morganton. If you do have any afternoon plans, just make sure you are prepared for, yes, the heat and humidity, but we are still watching for passing showers and thunderstorms. Out towards Gastonia and Shelby, 96 is where you're going to top off today, and 93 for Monroe. 96, though, back towards Rock Hill, bringing that heat again today. Now, today is going to be the last day of just brutal heat. I mean, yes, it's still going to be hot after that, but a little closer to where we should be. 96 in Charlotte today, 93 by tomorrow, lower into the 90s as we're heading into our weekend. Notice, though, next week we do have an upper 80-degree day, and now as we're looking at our 10-day forecast, I know many of you're thinking about the 4th of July. Looks like those temperatures will be into the lower end of the 90s, and of course we'll be talking about those rain chances as well. But the rain and the storm chances will still be there today. The Storm Prediction Center has everyone in our viewing area under a low-end risk for severe storms. So yesterday, those storms, they were loud, they were powerful. We had a high-end risk. So today I think it'll be much different. Very isolated, meaning the storms will pop up here, they'll pop up here. Not everyone will get them, but if any of those storms do turn severe, we'll mainly be watching for a high wind threat, and then again could see a little hail with that as well. So if you're taking the family, you're heading out to the lake, it's perfect right now, but keep your eye on the sky this afternoon. As we're heading into that 4 o'clock time frame, notice those passing showers and isolated storms start to move in. Here 7 o'clock later on tonight, just after dinner time, might impact an evening walk or two. I mean, not everyone. Notice the bulk of the system at this point is a little north of us. Waking up tomorrow, oh yeah, we're waking up to our Friday. Absolutely gorgeous weather as you're heading off to work. Maybe you're taking the kids to summer camp. We're talking about picture-perfect conditions. Tomorrow, remember, a couple of degrees cooler, and then those afternoon thunderstorms, they roll back in. Now, today and tomorrow, we do have the threat of severe thunderstorms, isolated chances. But if you're already thinking about Saturday, there's 7 o'clock in the morning, another nice start to the day if you're heading out to the farmer's market or if you want to work out in the yard. We do have afternoon showers and storms popping up on Saturday, but as of now, I don't think we'll have any severe weather Saturday or Sunday. All right, now over the next 10 days, well, you need to water your grass. What about your flowers? Well, there's our precipitation chances. We do at least have an opportunity for a raindrop or two each and every day, but definitely keep an eye on it because a lot of 20%, I'm noticing that popping up here and there. 4th of July, low 90s, 20% chance of rain as of now, but you know how it goes. We're still a ways out. Things are going to change, so just stay close to our weather team. Weather alert day today because of the heat and humidity, and don't forget, because we could see an isolated thunderstorm or two turn strong to severe. Primary risk today, strong damaging winds. And then there you go, heading into the weekend, getting real close, warming into the lower end of the 90s with possible showers and storms each and every day.
All right, so that is a look at your forecast. Yes, it's hot. Bear with the weather. It's our last day being weather alert. All right, so now you're looking live. This is a news conference that is happening there in New York City for Mayor Eric Adams. He is the mayor right now of New York City. This comes on the heels of the Democratic primary there a couple of days ago there in New York City, the Democratic primary. You see the results right there. Those results will be certified next week, but Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, did concede, and Zohran Mamdani did win. It appears he won this race as we head into the official general election in November. But Mayor Eric Adams is an independent in this race, hoping to win another term. So right there on our side panel impact, our impact side panel.
Registered trademark.
I'm still figuring out the name, but we're workshopping the name right now. But you could see how NYC's elections work. And
It's a
just
unique system.
It is. We talked about it before the news conference and even a couple of days ago during the Democratic primary there in New York City. But again, this press conference is happening. You see the sign there, re-elect Eric for mayor, Eric Adams being Eric. So let's listen into this press conference that's happening right now.
How do you do this? Shut. Good afternoon. Aren't you freaking excited? Let me tell you one thing. Mayor Adams was known to be the blue-collar mayor, but that was the first term. The second term, Mr. Mayor, you will be moral clarity mayor. Yes. From today on, Mayor Adams will be known as the moral clarity mayor. That's right. The city, more than any time in its history, needs a moral clarity leader. This city is the most diverse city in the world. Yes, it is. The last 48 hours, we have the Jewish community, wealthy New Yorkers, corporations, people who love the city, so let down and so disappointed. That should never ever happen. With Mayor Eric Adams, you will never ever question his moral clarity. Right. You will never ever question where he stands on issue. Right. You will never ever have a Jewish mother or Jewish rabbi questioning, should I continue to live in my city? You will never have a Muslim imam questioning, should I go to the mosque or would I be attacked? You will never ever have any corporation that says, I'm moving to Miami because it's no longer conducive to be in New York. You will never have wealthy New Yorkers who are paying for maintaining the city to question whether this is a city for them or not. Moral clarity is what Mayor Eric Adams represents, and moral clarity is what we need now. In closing, when we talk about affordability, this is not a slogan. Mayor Eric Adams used to go to school with the little items he had in the bag because he did not know whether he was coming back home that he left. That man knows what affordability is. Affordability is not slogan. It's not coming from someone who was born in wealth, went to the top schools, have parents who are wealthy. That's a slogan. If you want the city that is affordable and conducive, you have to talk to the man who lived in the city when the city was not accessible, affordable to his people. And I will end with this. Mayor Eric Adams, you have done many wonderful things which we are grateful for. But one of those things, you brought Jessica Tish. Even the criminals in the Bronx are saying, bro, him playing. Bro is 25 to life because we are now enjoying the safest big city in the nation. Thank you to the mayor and thank you to Jessica Tish. God bless you all.
We're gonna move this program along because we want to hear from the man. And I want to bring up my colleague, my former colleague in the city council, and that's Reverend, our pastor, Fernando Cabrera.
All right, Cabrera. Yes, okay, Cabrera. I'll make it quick because we want to hear from the mayor of the city of New York. Today, we understand if we want change, you can see, we need to vote for the leader who's already done it, Mayor Eric Adams. Leadership isn't claimed, it is proven. And Mayor Adams has proven it time after time and time again. When others made excuses in the past why he couldn't get it done, Mayor Adams delivered results. He is the fighter that we need and the public servant we deserve. When our city needed a backbone, Mayor Adams stood tall. He has the heart to care, the strength to lead, and the record to prove it. This is not just an endorsement here today. It is a call to action to support Mayor Adams because the future depends on it. Thank you so much.
Watch your step. Watch your step.
One more year. One more year. One more year.
Let's bring him.
Now, I don't know. I'm not sure he's here. Wait a minute. But I'm not sure he's here. But the former county leader, the leader in Brooklyn, the Honorable Frank Sedillo, who was supposed to be here, but because of a prior engagement that he could not change, he wanted to make sure that you understood that he stands hard and tall and committed to Eric Adams 4 more years. Yes. Now, the moment has come.
Yeah.
It's exciting because we've got a mayor that worked hard to bring crime down. But crime does not go down by not having a police force. You must have a police force that is honest, respectful, but is there to do the job. And that's what brings crime down. MWBEs, our small businesses, our minority-owned businesses, our women-owned businesses have gotten contracts that never before they were able to get. Why? For several reasons. One, because the contract limit was set so high, we couldn't qualify. And the other thing was, they made it difficult because we had to get bonding. But this mayor stood up, and if he could do it, I don't know why it wasn't done before, but this mayor did it. Yes. He saw to it that it.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We are approaching the top of the hour right now. You're watching live there on the bigger box. That's Mayor Eric Adams' campaign announcement. You see the sign there. It says "Re-elect Eric for mayor." We are expected to hear from Mayor Eric Adams shortly. Mayor of New York City, let me clarify, NYC's Mayor Eric Adams. On the top right, we are awaiting a White House briefing. You see the TV's coming on, so it should start in just moments. Below, we're weather alert today because one is hot and we're tracking storms that are moving through the Carolinas a little later. So we will get back to this press conference in a moment. Again, we're expected to hear from New York City's Mayor Eric Adams, but we want to get to a story that broke during our evening shows. Big story. So here's what we have. So nearly a dozen people were put into custody after Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE, operation at a business in Kings Mountain on Wednesday afternoon. Now, ICE confirmed to us that it was executing a criminal search warrant at Buckeye Fire Equipment Company. WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre is in Kings Mountain with the latest on this case. So, Jesse, catch us up. What do you know so far?
Well, first off, I'm standing right outside of Buckeye Fire Equipment Company. You can see it kind of back there behind me. This is a company that develops and manufactures fire protection products like fire extinguishers, for example. And an ICE spokesperson has confirmed that at least 30 people are in custody following the operation and ICE raid that happened yesterday. Now, the agency says that, like you mentioned, they were executing a criminal search warrant. And this is an operation that was linked to allegations of identity theft tied to having people working at this company who aren't authorized to legally work in the U.S. Now, a spokesperson says there were about 300 people working inside at the time of the raid, and folks that I spoke to who were working or who were inside say it was a scary situation, especially for one, having agents, multiple agents come inside there and not knowing exactly what was going on initially, but also walking in with long guns and weapons. They also tell me that agents process folks by groups, some larger groups of 20, some groups of 10. They were asked to show their ID, to show anything that can verify that they are legal residents. One gentleman I spoke to says now, especially this year, he walks around with his green card just to make sure if he's ever in a situation like this, he has the proper documentation to show. So he was put to the side, processed. He talks about also having some of his personal items put into a Ziploc bag and so forth. But once he was able to confirm the information, he was let go at the end. But you know, he said again that the situation, the entire thing was really scary. Now, at the same time, there were, you know, just under a dozen protesters that were outside also who were, you know, kind of demanding answers, protesting, and really worried about their family members. They say that they're worried about families getting torn apart. Folks I spoke to say they're also not happy with the way the raids are happening, the way they're being done. You know, one word that was used by one of the folks I spoke to says aggressive. He says the agent spoke to folks very aggressively and, you know, making them feel like they're criminals and so forth. And he is someone who is a legal green card holder. Overall, you know, it's just a big situation here with this ICE raid. 30 people at least confirmed in custody in this situation. I did reach out to the company. I called the phone number for here listed. They said they had no comment. And I'm trying to, you know, again, get in contact with some owners, see if they have any statement. But from what I heard from folks who work here, they haven't heard from the company either. No email sent to them or anything regarding the incident that happened. I did ask the gentleman that I spoke to, you know, is there anything he would do that he would want them to do differently? And he says he would just want to know initially at the beginning, you know, what is going on, why folks are here, why the agents are here. You know, it wasn't until the end, after he was processed, after he was asked about his ID, that he was told that this was an operation and they were looking into some level of identity theft. Nick?
All right, that is Jesse Pierre live for us there in Kings Mountain. Jesse, thank you for that update. She'll have more updates during our evening shows. All right, so we have that update there from Jesse Pierre. We want to go back now to a press conference that we've been following since the top of the stream this afternoon. We want to go out to New York City. Do we have that ready, you guys? Okay, so we want to go out to New York City. So Mayor Eric Adams is launching his re-election campaign. You see it right there. It looks like that shot is a little frozen. We're working to get that shot. I'll punch myself back up, but we're working to get that shot up for you and working. But this comes just a couple of days after the Democratic primary there in New York City. A stunner for a lot of folks, not only in New York City, but across the country. Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, was the favorite. And then you have Zoran Magdani, who won. So that election will be, that primary will be certified next week. But here you go. This is Mayor Eric Adams. He's speaking right now. We've been waiting to hear from him. Just to clarify, he's an independent in this race. And the election is in November. Let's take a listen into what Mayor Eric Adams is saying.
Have selective amnesia. So I want to take you back. January 1st, 2022, when I became mayor, there was this thing called COVID all over our city. You can walk down avenues in business districts and you see businesses were closed. And people were unsure. We were all wearing masks. People were debating, should our children be in school or not? But as a leader that was unwavering, understanding the most safe place for our children were in school buildings, I stood strong and firm against the naysayers and said we're going to open our schools and we'll protect our children, but we will continue to educate them so they won't continue to have the learning gap that COVID put on them and the socialization that they need. We saw leadership and focus. Crime was moving at a higher rate. Businesses were fleeing this city. There was a level of uncertainty. Black and brown unemployment was high. Black unemployment was 4 times the rate of white unemployment. We saw a lot of uncertainty. Guns were proliferating in our city. We were burying young people at disproportionate numbers. We didn't have the housing that we needed. All of these issues were facing us, and we was inherited that. January 1st, 2022, I was sitting in this building with my leadership and said we must forge ahead a pattern and a pathway that people needed to once again believe in the city again. And I saw that before. I didn't just start doing this. I saw it when Mayor Bloomberg came into office, when our center of trade was collapsed and our poverty was matching that collapse. And he turned around the city with real leadership and focus. And I knew I had to have that same leadership and determination and focus. And that's why we're here today asking for not 1 more year, not 2 more years, not 3 more years, 4 more years. And let's be clear. Let's be clear. 4 more years. It is an opportunity to every country. Listen, folks, didn't grow up with much. Born in Brownsville. All right. My mother cleaned houses and worked in a daycare center where she took leftovers home to feed us. My siblings and I, we're little and we shared all we had. I wasn't born into power and privilege, I was born into struggle.
Come on now.
Always knew what struggle was. If you're going to be a mayor of people who are going through a lot, you must be a human being that has gone through a lot.
Like you, that's right.
And we experienced a lot of pain as a child. I rose through the ranks and became a captain. I worked every day to protect the city, a city that I love. Later served in the state senate, and then as Brooklyn Borough president.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to shift away from this press conference from New York City's Mayor Eric Adams to this one, a briefing, a White House briefing. There's Caroline Leavitt, spokesperson for the White House, press secretary for the White House. And just want to know, this comes after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth doubled down, and the Trump administration doubled down on how destructive the U.S. attacks have been on Iran's nuclear facilities. Also, the President Donald Trump and his administration are sought to minimize, I'm reading this from AP News, an early leaked intelligence report. So this comes following those reports. And again, that's from AP News. Let's check in with this briefing right now.
The free world. The mission, which will go down in the history books, was an overwhelming success. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Raisin Kane covered the operation in great detail at their briefing this morning at the Pentagon, and I encourage every American to watch it. As President Trump has said repeatedly, the United States of America has the greatest, fiercest, and bravest armed forces ever to stride the face of this earth, and we couldn't be more grateful and proud of our nation's warriors. The Iranian regime was weeks away from being able to produce a nuclear weapon that would threaten the entire world before President Trump took this decisive action on Saturday night to obliterate their nuclear capabilities. The contrast in leadership could not be more clear. Barack Obama and Joe Biden sent pallets of cash, American taxpayer dollars, in a failed attempt to buy the Iranian regime's compliance with a weak and ineffective deal. President Trump sent a fleet of American warplanes to destroy Iran's ability to produce a nuclear weapon. The United States and the entire world are safer because of this president's decisiveness. Despite agenda-driven leaks by the fake news media aimed at undermining this incredible accomplishment achieved by President Trump and our brave fighter pilots, there is broad consensus emerging already that Iran's nuclear capabilities were indeed destroyed. The United States, Israel, the United Nations, and even Iran all agree they can no longer build a nuclear weapon. So why did the president immediately turn to obliterating after the Iranian nuclear threat? Securing peace. Within 48 hours of the devastating strike, President Trump and his team brokered a historic ceasefire between Israel and Iran and officially ended the 12-day war. The Middle East is now shifting away from chaos and bloodshed and moving toward the beginning stages of a new era of peace and stability that President Trump has long called on them to achieve. This was unthinkable at this time last week, and this is what peace through strength looks like. Under President Trump, America will relentlessly advance our interests without being dragged into endless wars. His fearless leadership guarantees America is once again respected across the world. Just look at what he was able to accomplish at the NATO summit in the Netherlands. Many of you were there. Our allies agreed to invest 5% of their GDP annually in defense because President Trump demanded it. This will be the most significant reinforcement of NATO's collective defense in the history of the NATO alliance. And as a result, the United States of America will carry less of the burden, and our NATO allies will be stronger than ever before. As NATO Secretary General Ruda put it, for too long, one ally, the United States, and our taxpayers, I may add, carried too much of the burden of that commitment. And that changes today. President Trump made this change possible. We will produce trillions more for our common defense to make us stronger and fairer by equalizing spending between America and our allies. This is the Trump effect. This is what the president meant when he declared that America is back. Now back here at home, Americans are paying much cheaper prices for gasoline this summer, as both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times pointed out today. Here's how the Wall Street Journal put it. Hitting the road this summer won't bring as much of a big hit to your wallet. The national average for a gallon of regular gasoline is about 23 cents cheaper than this time last year. Analysts say plentiful supply is expected to keep prices down in the coming months. These are the cheapest gas prices at this point of the summer since 2021. And despite all the doom casting from liberal pundits, oil prices on Tuesday were lower than before the Israel-Iran conflict began. As President Trump continues to unleash American energy, our country will have even more efficient, reliable, and affordable energy to protect our national security and fuel our people. Later this afternoon here at the White House, the president will host a One Big Beautiful event in the East Room to rally Republicans to get the One Big Beautiful bill across the finish line. At that event, he will be joined by everyday Americans from across the country who will massively benefit from the common sense policies and provisions within this bill. This is the largest tax cut for working and middle-class Americans in history, and it's going to put more money into the pockets of hardworking Americans. Families will see an average increase in take-home pay of more than $10,000 per year. Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 per year will see a 15% tax cut. Overtime and tipped workers will save thousands of dollars annually. And our amazing seniors will receive historic financial relief by reducing the tax burden on their Social Security benefits. Simply put, this bill is going to unlock the golden age of America. And we look forward to continuing to work with the Senate and the House to see this bill on the president's desk for signature by Independence Day. Here in our new media seat today, we have Colin Anderson with the Washington Free Beacon, who will kick off our question and answer. Colin, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. We reported yesterday on a briefing from the Israeli defense minister in which she said the U.S. and Israel are working together to monitor any attempts from Iran to rebuild their nuclear program, and also that if Iran was to do so, the U.S. and Israel would work together to once again destroy that nuclear program. Is that aligned with the president's thinking?
Look, the president, as I said in those opening remarks, Colin, and thanks for being with us today, views the Middle East on its way to peace and prosperity. And the president used strength on Saturday night. The whole world saw that the United States is indeed the most lethal fighting force in the world with those precision strikes on Saturday evening. But the president wants peace. He always has. And right now we're on a diplomatic path with Iran. The president and his team, namely Special Envoy Witkoff, continue to be in communication with the Iranians and especially our Gulf and Arab partners in the region to come to an agreement with Iran. As for our alliance with the State of Israel and that friendship and that partnership between the United States and the State of Israel, I would argue it has never been stronger. And we see a new era in which perhaps some of these Gulf and Arab states can sign on to the Abraham Accords. That was one of the president's most signature accomplishments in his first term, and he'd like to see more of those countries sign on in this second term. And so we look forward to sustaining a long and durable peace in the region, and the president wants to do that through a diplomatic solution. But as he proved on Saturday night, he's not afraid to use strength if we need to do it. Gabe.
Thanks, Caroline. The president mentioned in a Truth Social post that no enriched uranium was moved from Fordo. What about the other two sites, Isfahan and Natanz, and how can the president be so sure that no uranium was moved?
Well, what I can assure you is that the United States and our intelligence agencies and Director Ratcliffe and the President's entire national security team were obviously watching these sites very closely in the weeks and the days leading up to the attack on Saturday, which I will add was one of the most secretive and successful operations in United States history. I think many of you in this room would agree with that because none of you in this room knew about the strike on Saturday until it took place. So we were watching closely, and there was no indication to the United States that any of that enriched uranium was moved prior to the strike.
From any of the sites?
Correct.
And then one more thing, Caroline. Next week, the president mentioned that there would be talks with Iran. He didn't mention any details, and Iran has not confirmed them. Can you share any details about any potential talks next week?
We don't have anything scheduled as of now, but I spoke to our Special Envoy Witkoff at length this morning, and I can assure all of you we continue to be in close communication with the Iranians and through our intermediaries as well, namely the Qataris, who have been an incredible ally and partner throughout this entire effort. And as I said, this administration is always focused on diplomacy and peace, and we want to ensure we can get to a place where Iran agrees to a non-enrichment civil nuclear program, and there are many other requests that the United States has. Those details continue to really, they're just starting. Of course, the operation was just on Saturday night, but we are in touch, and if there is a meeting, we will let you know as we always do. Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. There's two. One on trade. On the July deadline that's coming up for the trade deals, is that deadline still hard and fast for the president, or is he now considering even coming to trade deals after that deadline, and where is he on that going forward?
I think the president has been asked this quite a few times by many of you in the media. I've heard him answer it at press conferences and at gaggles. He just spoke about it on Air Force One. The deadline is not critical. The president can simply provide these countries with a deal if they refuse to make us one by the deadline, and that means the president can pick a reciprocal tariff rate that he believes is advantageous for the United States and for the American worker, and he will continue to do that. But as for the deals, our United States Trade Ambassador, Jamison Greer, I speak to him frequently. He's working very hard, and he has had very good and productive discussions with many of our key trading partners.
And on the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's conversations on the Hill right now about the Medicaid cuts. Yeah, I'm curious if the final bill that the president's been talking about comes to him and it has Medicaid cuts in it, will he sign it, or would he rather just Congress do away with those cuts?
I think our friends in both the Senate and the House know exactly where the president stands on Medicaid. He wants to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, and they are working to do that in the Senate right now. Jennifer.
Follow up on that, on the big beautiful bill. Is there enough time for Congress to work through the issues it needs to work through? I'm saying, does the president need to move back his deadline a little bit?
We expect that bill to be on the president's desk for signature by July 4th. I know that there was a ruling by the Senate parliamentarian this morning. Look, this is part of the process. This is part of the inner workings of the United States Senate, but the president is adamant about seeing this bill on his desk here at the White House by Independence Day.
And then on Israel, is there a date set for the Prime Minister to visit the White House yet? Is he coming in a couple weeks?
There isn't a date, but the Prime Minister has expressed interest in coming to the White House to meet with the president and come to Washington. The president is obviously very open to that, but we don't have a date. When we do, we'll let you all know. Kate.
The president suggested he was open to sending more Patriot air defense missiles to Ukraine. Is that going to happen, and were there any other assurances that he made directly to Zelensky when they met?
I'll let the president speak on that. That was a private conversation between he and President Zelensky, but the meeting was a good meeting, and it was a meeting towards progress, and the president, as he said, repeatedly wants to see this war come to an end, but I'll let him speak on that specific point.
And Witkoff yesterday suggested that there would be more countries signing on to the Abraham Accords. What's the timeline on that, and which countries specifically is the administration looking to have sign on?
Well, the president is certainly hopeful that more countries in the region will sign on to the Abraham Accords. Again, we want to see a long, withstanding, and durable peace in the Middle East, and that's the way to do it. And when the president met with the new president of Syria, that was one of the requests that he made for Syria to sign on to the Abraham Accords. I don't have a timeline for you, but this administration wants to see that happen, and our partners in the region should know that. Rachel.
Thanks so much. Just to follow back up on the meeting that the president mentioned about wanting to have this meeting with the Iranians next week. Clearly there's a willingness here from the administration to want to meet with Iranian officials. What is the holdup here in trying to schedule it? Are you experiencing any resistance from the Iranians?
No, have some patience. We just had this strike on Saturday night. The president secured a ceasefire. A lot has happened in the last week. The Netherlands, now he's back home to have a big event this afternoon on the One Big Beautiful Bill and get our domestic priorities across the finish line. So we'll get there, and like I said, we're in constant communication.
And just one more, just the goal of the meeting. The president mentioned yesterday that it may not be necessary to have an agreement with the Iranians. What is the purpose, what would be the goal of this meeting?
Again, to continue moving forward towards a long-standing peace in the Middle East. Jordan.
Yes, Caroline, thank you. So the president had some harsh words for both Israel and Iran on Tuesday as he was departing from the NATO summit after they both violated the ceasefire. He said, what's your response to Americans who are worried the peace isn't going to last and think that Israel is trying to plunge us into another endless war on their behalf?
I think the fact that the president was able to successfully negotiate a ceasefire when nobody thought that was possible, it was a surprise to everyone in this room, it was a surprise to the world, but the president got it done because he wants to see peace in this world. He does not want the United States to be dragged into these conflicts. Again, he's not afraid to use strength if he has to, but the president has already proven he can put America first and deliver on peace at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive goals.
And then one more. After Kari Lake, she testified in the House Foreign Affairs Committee on the waste, fraud, and abuse and the rot, really, in Voice of America and USA GM. The president called for Congress to kill it. What does that look like, and is the president willing to sign an executive order?
Well, I believe that action would have to be legislative through Congress, and the president directed Congress to get that done in his Truth Social post yesterday. If there is any executive action that can be taken to cut some of the waste, fraud, and abuse or do away with the program entirely, I'm sure our great Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, is already looking into it, and if it can be done, it will be done here at the White House, but Congress should act as well. To the back. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, Caroline, thank you. The administration
to the back, and then Carrie, I'll come to you.
Yeah, the administration said that the DIA report was low confidence intel. Can you share what other assessments are currently underway to get to the bottom of just how effective these strikes were?
Yes. Well, I can assure you what the CIA director said, that when we look at the entirety of the intelligence that we have to this date, it concludes that these strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities were absolutely successful. It was a total obliteration, as the president said, and not only does our own intelligence say that, but also the Iranian foreign minister has said that. We saw Israel conclude the same thing based on their own intelligence. We also had the United Nations say that as well. So I think the only other time the United Nations, Israel, Iran, and the United States has agreed on something is that the sky is blue, but they all agree that Iran's nuclear facilities were completely demolished. And I would just like to reemphasize, you mentioned this was a low confidence preliminary intelligence assessment, and the entirety of that assessment was not leaked to the media. Only tidbits of that assessment were leaked to CNN, and we have seen this playbook run before, where you have people in the intelligence community, or perhaps on Capitol Hill, we don't know, but I believe the FBI is investigating to find out who that leaker was, because it's illegal and they should be held accountable for that, leaked bits and pieces of an intel assessment to push a false narrative. And it's to the same reporter I will add Natasha Bertrand of CNN, who has done this in the past. In 2020, it was Natasha Bertrand who had 51 intelligence analysts falsely lie to her, but she still put it on paper for some reason, that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. We all know that's not true, right? We can all agree on that now. That was a lie from the intelligence community. Also in 2020, this same reporter, Natasha Bertrand, wrote that a top intel agency ruled out the man-made lab leak theory of the coronavirus origins. Again, the president was right about that. This reporter wrote a lie from the intelligence community to seek a narrative she wanted to prove, and guess what? We now know that's the truth. Also, in 2024, Bertrand pushed the suckers and losers hoax. She also pushed the fine people hoax, which was taking the president's words purposely out of context. And then last October, and I believe this is notable, Natasha Bertrand published an article in Politico from the intelligence agency. She said that John Ratcliffe was speaking without any evidence when he said Iran was attempting to undermine President Trump's presidential campaign. And then we, of course, found out that was absolutely true. In fact, the Biden administration declassed an intel report which said they had high confidence that Iran had done exactly what Ratcliffe alleged. They did run an influence campaign to hurt President Trump's candidacy. In fact, we know the Iranians tried to take President Trump's life. And so this is a reporter who has been unfortunately used by people who dislike Donald Trump in this government to push fake and false narratives. She should be ashamed of herself. And that's not what reporting is. Journalism is trying to find the facts and the truth. And this week we saw this same reporter being used to push a fake narrative to try to undermine the President of the United States, and more importantly, the brave fighter pilots who conducted one of the most successful operations in United States history. And I think the American people fully know that this operation was a complete and total success. Elizabeth.
Thank you, Caroline. The Miami Herald recently published a story saying the Trump administration was targeting migrant foster children. The Trump administration has denounced this as false. Could you clarify the Trump administration's position on protecting migrant children, particularly the 300,000 lost under the Biden administration?
Yes, I saw that Miami Herald article yesterday, and I was aghast at the headline. It's egregious to accuse this administration of trying to target foster children. That is not at all what is happening at the Department of Homeland Security. And I learned that the Department of Homeland Security actually tried to work in good faith with this reporter to get this story right, to explain that this administration is trying to protect foster children. We are trying to keep children out of harm's way, even if that means their parents are not law-abiding citizens. We want to protect children, unlike the previous administration, which allowed children to be trafficked and raped, and in some cases killed because of the open border policies. Unfortunately, the Miami Herald just completely degraded themselves with this report, despite having a full list of facts from the Department of Homeland Security. It's another example of fake news. And the May border numbers speak for themselves. Not a single illegal alien was allowed into this country because of this administration's border policies in the month of May. That means not a single child was allowed into this country, possibly with human smugglers or human traffickers. And we know that was happening at the rate of thousands and thousands of children every single month in the previous administration for 4 years. And you didn't see any reporting of that from the Miami Herald, but now they're trying to accuse this administration. And we tried to give them the facts and they refused to report them. So thank you for bringing that
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Right now, you're watching the daily White House briefing that is happening. That is Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. So we want to shift away from that. We want to get to some breaking news. We've been tracking this for the last 10 minutes or so. So here's what the National Weather Service of Charleston, South Carolina, posted on X. Many reports of a fireball across the southeast. It is not certain, but the satellite-based lightning detection shows a streak within cloud-free sky over North Carolina-Virginia border over Gasbury, Virginia. The streak was detected between 12:51 and 12:56. Now we do we have video of?
So it's interesting, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have some video.
Okay.
We'll start by the video here that our content partners in Atlanta posted, and you can see what might be this fireball.
Yes, you see it right there to the left.
Yeah, we'll play that again.
Let's play that again. And again, this is This is actually dash camera video on 85 southbound in upstate South Carolina, so in the Greenville-Spartanburg area. So
Which collaborates this other angle from South Carolina.
Okay, I just saw this video. Okay.
That's near Columbia.
That's near Columbia?
Yes.
Okay.
Two Notch Road is Columbia.
Okay. Now, Nick, you were just talking about the lightning mapping data, and Charleston showed one imagery, but I'm going to pull this up real fast.
Mhm.
It's a little wide. You know, it's showing the whole United States, but based on the timestamp that those videos show us, about 12:25. If you look right over Atlanta, and I advance this one frame, you see there's a little bright flash. I know it's small on the screen, but it's kind of a greenish yellow, and then in the next frame, it's gone. I can't say for sure that that's what it is, but this satellite product looks for bright flashes in the sky,
Yeah.
normally lightning, and the timestamp aligns with what the video shows. And also, at this time, there were no thunderstorms in Atlanta. So I wonder if this is also a piece of collaborating evidence.
So we've gotten these reports from, if I missed something, correct me, James, South Carolina, obviously here in the Charlotte area, Augusta, Atlanta, Tennessee. Am I missing Virginia?
That sounds right.
Virginia. These are the areas. I know I said southeast, but these are the areas. This is video again. I want to read you what 11 Alive has on their web article. This is concentrated as far as Metro Atlanta. So it reports several Metro Atlanta city and county officials have relayed reports of a, quote, fireball sighting from the sky this afternoon. Among the reports of sightings are from the city of Roswell fire, Forsyth County, Dawson County. So just to give you some context, these are surrounding counties within the Metro Atlanta area. So for instance, Forsyth is about 45 minutes away from the city of Atlanta. Roswell is about 30 minutes on a good day. So the National Weather Service in Charleston also noted the report saying that, quote, satellite-based lightning detection shows a streak within cloud-free sky over the North Carolina-Virginia border.
And I think as we'll get more data, they'll be able to pinpoint the path it took across the sky.
But very interesting.
It's very interesting. The other thing that's interesting, it's daytime.
Yeah.
Right? So fireball is not a technical definition as far as like NASA would use, but they, on their website, NASA does say that a fireball might be used to describe an unusually bright meteor. And of course, it's the middle of the day, so that's how bright this was, right, in the sky, based on the contrast. And it'll be interesting to see if anybody finds any evidence of this on the ground, because it's a meteor when it shoots across the sky. And if it reaches the ground, Nick, that would be called a meteorite.
And I think some reports are saying that, you know, first responders haven't found anything yet. So, like you said, James, to your point, it'll be interesting what they eventually find, if they find anything. Again, just to pull the curtain back a little bit, this came across our desk about 10, 15 minutes ago. We were just trying to verify. And I think as we were working to verify, that's when we started to see more posts on X, more web articles with our content partners and our partners with NBC affiliates. So, yeah, we will continue to keep an eye on this.
We're going to stay here for a couple more minutes because our newsroom is telling us they're literally getting so many phone calls.
They're getting phone calls. Okay, we'll stay on it. Yeah.
If you're all listening, if people or viewers are listening and y'all saw something, you have pictures of it, please send it to us.
Let us know.
Yeah, this is a good time, Carlene, to remind folks that they can go to our WCNC app on your phone. You can click the little Near Me button. You can upload photos and videos to us. You can also text us, 704-329-3600. 704-329-3600.
Send them to our social media accounts. Send them to Nick. Send them to our anchor. Send it wherever you want.
we would love to see your images, your video.
It helps us.
And even if you want to DM me, just to kind of give me sort of some background on what you saw, where you were at, just to help tell the story. But that's the video. Again, as Carlene mentioned, this is in the Columbia, South Carolina area, 2 Notch Road.
Yes.
Can I read what Augusta, Georgia has on their website, the NBC affiliate? So law enforcement officers, this is from their web article, so law enforcement officers are searching for answers after multiple people reported a ball of fire in the sky heading toward the ground. Callers from Columbia County, Georgia, reported seeing a trail of smoke in the air. Scores of callers in Aiken County reported a ball of fire in the sky, and one person in Augusta reported seeing it around 12:20. So it mirrors that timeline, James. And they started seeing that from Robert C. Daniel Parkway. So if you're familiar with the Augusta, Georgia area, black smoke was reported south of Interstate 20 near mile marker 8, although it might be from...
It might be from surprised if this reached the ground.
And from what I'm reading is it might be related to a control burn.
Okay.
So that's what first responders in that area relate in this article. Deputies and other first responders in Aiken County were driving up and down Interstate 20 looking for evidence of possibly a plane crash. FAA, this is important to put out there, the FAA told News 12, that's NBC affiliate in Augusta, Georgia, quote, "We have no reports of unusual aircraft activity in the area." I wonder if the FAA, and we're learning this in real time, I wonder if they...
I think that the discussion of aircraft is trying to rule out any sort of man-made objects in the sky causing this.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm just giving context to, like, it sounds like they're going through a checklist, right, of what this could be.
Right.
Do we have any fires on the ground? Do we have any aircraft doing anything unusual? It seems most likely that it would be something burning up in the atmosphere that came in from space, whether that be a rock, whether that be a satellite re-entering that maybe deorbited. It'd be really hard to say, but it sounds like emergency officials, based on what you're reading, Nick, are kind of going through plausible
the checklist.
Yeah.
And again, we're learning some of this stuff in real time. Like we were able to verify some of it, but a lot of it we're learning in real time. So you see that video there, and that is from a dash cam video posted on X on I-85 southbound in upstate South Carolina. So that's the Greenville, Spartanburg area. I don't know if that looked familiar at all. I know that doesn't look like a lot, Carlene.
No.
Okay.
I've been on 85 quite a few times, but 85 at a certain point kind of all looks the same.
Right.
You don't have them all memorized?
No.
We do have this.
Miker.
We have this post.
Okay.
Chris Jackson wrote on X, Lexington County in South Carolina, along with the city of Casey, Columbia Fire Department, and Fort Jackson Fire Department have all responded to calls about the fireball. So again, this is just kind of adding up the tallies that lots of people in Columbia definitely are amongst the folks who saw this.
And it felt closer in the Columbia area as far as that shot. It looked closer, I guess I should say. It looked closer.
It looks like we got a better view from the Columbia. Not necessarily if it was closer, but like
there you go.
We got a better
view. So that is so there in Columbia, also in Augusta. So far, first responders haven't found any evidence of what this is. So we continue to hit the refresh button. We continue to, we're actively looking on X. We're going through our team's channels just to see if we get updates. James, I know you mentioned that our newsroom is getting a bunch of calls about this as well.
They are. And I can also add that Lexington County has responded to at least 6 calls. Frank Strait is a gentleman I know in Columbia. He works for the state government, and he said it went right over his head. This is on Twitter. I can actually put this on the screen here. He said he actually said there must have been more than one. We don't know that yet, but he did also write that it went right over him as he was heading west on 85, right as it crossed Interstate I-26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's just kind of wild because you think about all these places like we're naming. Columbia to Augusta,
Metro Atlanta,
to here to Atlanta, to all these are not. They're not exactly far, but not exactly close either.
No,
like
at all.
Columbia to Greenville is an hour and a half.
Atlanta to
all these places are like, and they're
some
not.
Distance.
There are some distance, and they're not like in a line.
Yeah.
They're like up and down, kind of Some of them are a bit farther down the state line. Some of them are really close to the state line.
Right.
I think it's always amazing to think how, I'm going to say small the sky is, but because of the perspective, right?
Right.
The vantage point of what something in the sky can be seen. I'm thinking about sometimes we have rocket launches from the coast of Virginia. NASA has a facility there kind of in the Delmarva Peninsula called Wallops. It has nothing to do with this as far as we know, but they're launching there along the coastline on the ocean, and there are times where they'll tell us as far to the west as Charlotte, you might be able to see this in the sky, right? Or we've seen rockets take off from Cape Canaveral here in Charlotte if the angle and the lighting and all that is right. So it's just like the world is big but small at the same time.
Like you're from here to Atlanta is how long?
About 4 hours,
Right.
maybe. Yeah. So it's not like it's not a short trip
No.
at all.
No.
But yeah, just seeing these videos.
And you're hearing us click feverishly trying to
right,
find
we're-
more.
This is live, real-time news gathering
Yes.
right here on WCNC Plus.
You are on this journey with us. So we have our article posted on our website. So if you are watching, but you want to read more about it, go to our website, WCNC.com. Also go to our news app. Let me read you what's on our web article in case you don't have it pulled up. So multiple people and county agencies across North Carolina, South Carolina reported seeing a fiery ball falling from the sky Thursday afternoon. This afternoon. Now, the first report started coming in around noon with several people saying it appeared to be falling debris like a meteor or asteroid streaking across the sky. WCNC Charlotte's newsroom, we have received multiple calls, and I may be underselling this a bit, but we have gotten plenty of calls about the fireball since it was spotted around 12:30 p.m. All right, so multiple users on Reddit reported seeing on Interstate 485. It was also reported in Atlanta, Georgia, Greenville, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. A reporter from our sister station there in Atlanta, Cody Alcorn, again, he's based there in Atlanta, shared a video. You see it right there.
Yeah, you said he got from upstate South Carolina too.
Yeah.
So like, if people were people in Atlanta and people, did Atlanta see it or we just got the report? Okay.
Yep. So let me go back to 11 Alive's article. And I know this may all seem confusing because we're talking about different areas. Just think about this. If you live in the Southeast, you may have seen this. And we're pointing out counties and states and cities that we know of so far. So when it comes to Atlanta, Roswell, the city of Roswell, Forsyth County, Dawson County, these are all counties at least 30 to 45 minutes outside of Metro Atlanta that have seen that. And not necessarily, let me point out, not necessarily on the way to Charlotte.
Right.
They're in opposite directions, actually, from if you head to Charlotte. So in Atlanta, it's about 4-ish hours. Some people can make it in 3.5.
Right.
But that just shows you, just like James said, like sky is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, James, and correct me if I'm wrong, sky is big and small at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's what you said. Yeah,
Is
an advantage
always
point.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are working on getting Brad Panovich, chief meteorologist here at WCNC Charlotte, on the line.
Okay.
And he is at a conference right now, but he is going to be joining us here momentarily on Zoom. We may just have
I think we have Brad.
Let's see here.
And just to catch you guys up, a fireball, we got this, what has it been now, 20, 30 minutes at this point? A fireball, a report of a quote fire. I'm using the word fireball.
Fireball.
That's
We put it in quotes.
Seen across the sky, across multiple cities and counties across the Southeast, from Atlanta, Charleston, Columbia area, Augusta. I'm counting the web articles right now. Charlotte, because we've getting calls about it. The National Weather Service. Let me refresh X, see if they have followed up with any posts. So about 30 minutes ago, they acknowledged it as reports of a fireball across Southeast United States. All right, I think do we have Brad?
We have Brad.
Okay.
I'm just checking his audio real fast.
Okay, I'm sorry. No rush. So, again, National Weather Service in Charleston posting on X many reports of a fireball across Southeast United States. It is not certain, but the satellite-based lightning detection shows a streak within cloud-free sky over the North Carolina-Virginia border. The streak was detected between 12:51 and 12:56. So if I'm putting this together, and if you've been listening from the very beginning, our timeline is from the 12:20-ish to close to 1 o'clock when we are getting these reports and posts. Again, as soon as we got some sort of confirmation. It's because we actually, James, how did we come across, before we get to Brad, how do we come across this?
We started getting lots of phone calls.
Okay, was it the phone call? Okay.
Yeah, text messages, phone calls. Appreciate everyone who saw this and reached out. I mean, I think some people were trying to report it to us, and I think some people were trying to reach out to learn more information. Whatever the motive was, reaching out to us is, we have many eyes and ears, but
if you see pictures, if you have pictures, videos, anything,
let me check my phone.
Please send it in to us.
I mean, you guys were right here. My phone started ringing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are people calling me?
They know I'm busy.
Yeah.
Don't they know you're on stream?
Should we ask Brad how much his phone was blowing?
Oh yeah, sure.
Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Brad, you are not at work, obviously, but of course, work calls. What are you hearing?
So I've actually seen the videos, guys, a couple of times, and I will just tell you this. Looking at the videos, the two things I notice, this is very low in the atmosphere. So I'm kind of curious if this was not some kind of piece of space debris, a rocket body, maybe a degrading satellite, or some other piece of space junk. For something to be that bright in the middle of the day, it most likely was burning up in the atmosphere. It was a pretty large chunk of whatever it was. I am curious, though. I haven't seen any reports of sounds, because if it's sounds, then you would have heard this lower in the atmosphere making a sonic boom of some kind. So I will be curious to see if this ends up being a piece of space junk or something else, because if it was a meteor, it would have to have been a really large meteor to be that bright in the middle of the day.
Brad, I guess my initial question is, have you come across anything like this? Is there anything you can compare this to?
I've seen like space debris break up like this and happen in the middle of the day. There was one meteor that happened in Russia, I think about 15 years ago now, that was very large, caused a sonic boom and actually caused destruction near the surface. And it looked like this, but it was going horizontally across the sky. This was going vertical, like straight down, which makes me think that this was probably something that either came back into orbit and then moved straight down and burned up. But I will be curious to see if we end up finding this is space debris. There's actually a guy I know, I'm actually going to try to contact him after I'm done with you, that tracks space debris to see if there was anything in the area that possibly could have accounted for this this piece of debris. But I tell you what, my phone was blowing up, guys, just like yours. Started getting all these messages. And when I started getting the messages, I thought when they said that happened around 12:25 or whatever, I was like, last night? I thought it was at nighttime, and they said, no, today, during the middle of the day, which shocked me, because normally you wouldn't see anything like this in the middle of the day. So this is pretty rare, and the fact that everybody saw it, too, is pretty rare.
I just want to point out, Brad, this would happen when you're away from work and at a conference.
Well, the irony is I'm at the American Meteorological Society, not the American Meteor Society. And we actually had an expert talk about meteor showers on Monday. So I was going to try to see if he was still here so I could talk to him. But I don't know if he's still here. But he was talking about some of the meteor showers this year. And we're not in one right now. So that would be just a rogue piece of meteor. But one of the things I remember from his presentation on Monday was most of the meteors that you see at night, the AK shooting stars, are literally the size of a grain of sand. And they happen way up in the atmosphere, way above where we are at the ground. This, to me, just on the videos alone, and again, sometimes perspective could be wrong, this looks much lower in the atmosphere. So whatever this was, it survived longer. It was able to get really, really bright. And probably because of that, there might be some meteorite or piece of debris that made it to the surface, which would be then called a meteorite.
Brad, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you. James, do you got anything before we get out of here?
No, but just in terms of transparent news gathering, if you do find any experts, Brad, please give us a holler.
Yes.
We will be here.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go ask around and see if I can get some information. I have a couple NASA contacts, like I said, that might be able to give us at least some possibly what it was, whether it was a meteor or a piece of space debris. You pretty much know, because the orbits of the space debris are tracked pretty diligently. So if it was a piece of space debris, we should have an idea of what was in this general area that could have fallen, and that would give us some ideas. If that becomes not in something that works out, then we can go start looking at radar data, because that's one thing I'm going to look at too, is the weather radar guys. If it was low enough in the atmosphere, it's possible that one of the local National Weather Service radars could have picked it up on the radar.
Brad, my friend, thank you for your time. Again, you can't get rid of us that easy, Brad.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, thank you for your time and giving us some context on this, Brad.
Yeah, I'll send you anything I know, guys. And yeah, anyone out there, I put it on my social media as well. If you have video, Ring camera, security footage, go check it right now because it might give us more details and video that we can get. So go check those videos and see if you caught it on one of your security cameras.
Great point there. All right, that is Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich there. We will continue to get updates and check in with Brad throughout the day. Brad, again, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
All right, let's get back to this video. You see it right here. This is video from the Columbia, South Carolina area. I'm getting some of these videos mixed up because we've got some.
There's a lot of blue sky and
yeah.
But yeah, this is on Two Notch Road. This is like east of Columbia, kind of like northeast is Two Notch Road ish. Kind of goes that way. But then you said earlier that like people like apartments in Casey, which is the other side of Columbia, were calling. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like when you said Atlanta. People from left Atlanta, right of Atlanta, everywhere. Yeah. Everyone's calling in.
And not even, and even on a regular day on the commute home, it takes about an hour to get to some of these places in Atlanta. So, and James, you brought up a good point. So I pointed this out. And you gave a good perspective. So I'm looking at this video. I'm saying, man, it looks closer. But you put some perspective on this. I don't know if you remember what you said, if you're able to.
We say a lot of things here. But no, I think you're right. It's just that, Brad pointed out how low it appears in the atmosphere. And to your point, anything that's up there in the atmosphere above our head is going to be seen down below. Let me put myself on camera, right? So it's kind of like, if it's up here and the Earth is down here, then everyone kind of can see it in this whole surrounding area because it's so high above our heads. It's almost like if you're in Spectrum Arena and you're having a hard time viewing the court, but you look up at the Jumbotron, right? They raise it up above our heads, they hang it from the ceiling. It's that, but obviously on a magnitude well beyond that it's right there in the sky, and so that everyone down below has that really great view of it.
Yeah, that great perspective there. And also, too, like as we pointed out, these areas that are seeing this quote, and I want to put quote, fireball, are places that are not close.
No.
From Columbia to Charleston.
Augusta.
To Atlanta, to Charlotte, upstate area.
Yeah.
These areas are not close.
No.
Virginia as well, as according to the National Weather Service, in Charleston, South Carolina. I want to read let me refresh X. So as of about 30 minutes ago, this is what the National Weather Service, and let me make sure I correct what their timeline. So they actually adjusted that timeline. So let me read the post in its entirety. So what they posted was many reports of fireball across the U.S., the southeast U.S. It is not certain, but the satellite-based lightning detection shows a streak within cloud-free sky over the North Carolina-Virginia border. This streak was detected. Now, initially, they put 1251 to 1256. Let me correct that. This is what they are now saying, 1151 to 1156.
That is really confusing to me. Because the videos both say 12:25 p.m.
I scrolled
Eastern.
down. Yeah, I scrolled down. So we're sorting this out.
We're doing the math here live.
And I think it's safe to say around noon to about 1 o'clock is our window of activity. I think that's safe to say.
That's safe to say.
So let me get to
just some new video that Brad sent from his wife. The Panovich News team.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich is. We're thankful to have him on the show. He's not working today, but he is working in some capacity. He joins us on Zoom just to give us a perspective. He's at a conference right now, but he just sent in some video. So let me read just to catch you up. I want to catch you up. We are nearing the top of the hour. It's 1:53 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. You see that streak in the sky? That is what we're following. That's the big story here in the area. So here's what we have on WCNC.com, our web article, and on our mobile app. So multiple people in county agencies across North Carolina and South Carolina reported seeing a, quote, fiery ball falling from the sky Thursday afternoon. The first report started coming in around noon, with several people saying it appeared to be falling debris like a meteor or asteroid streaking across the sky. WCNC Charlotte's newsroom has received multiple calls about the fireball since it was spotted around 12:30 p.m. Multiple users on Reddit reported seeing this fireball on Interstate 485. It was also reported in Atlanta, Greenville, and Charleston. Our content partners over there in Atlanta, a reporter there, Cody Alcorn, sent us some video from I-85 in upstate South Carolina that shows an object falling from the sky. This is not his video, but this is video from the Columbia area. So here's the video that Cody sent us. This is in the upstate area, upstate South Carolina. You see it on the left of your screen. Let's see it again. You see it? There you go. And this is dash cam video that he was able to get. All right, so the National Weather Service in Greenville, Spartanburg, have reportedly told WYFF, that's the NBC affiliate there in Greenville, South Carolina, that it is looking into reports and trying to track down any information about it. A meteorologist, Chris Jackson, based in South Carolina, reported that the object made it to the ground in Lexington County, but crews haven't found anything yet. And so, again, we are working to get more information on this, quote, fireball. I want to continue to say, quote, fireball, because we haven't confirmed what this actually is. And so what you see right there on your screen is it streaking across the sky. So you see it again. The southbound lane of I-85 in upstate, and you see it right there in the left portion of your screen. Yep, see it right there. So that is
Can you
dash cam
imagine
video.
driving down the road and seeing that?
I'm thinking that. And I'm looking at the vantage points of both videos. So that's cell phone video right here on your screen from the Columbia area. But imagine you catch that, like the reaction.
Right.
And we don't have the volume on, but I can only imagine what folks are saying behind the wheel.
Right.
One, if it's with the dash cam video, I'm sure that person was like, did I just see that? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. And on a day like today, no clouds in the sky, nothing. So you can see that.
You can see clear day, yeah.
And these are reports coming from across the southeast. And again, these places that are reporting this, not close.
No.
Atlanta, Charleston, Columbia, all hours away. Charlotte, hours away. All right, folks, you might hear me clicking because I'm refreshing. And if I get silent, it's because I'm clicking and just refreshing.
You hear the tapping of the keyboards.
You hear the tapping. we are actively working on getting more information on this, quote, fireball.
It's not the first time we've had fireballs or meteorites in the Carolinas. And actually, I should clarify, it's not the first time we've had meteors. But again, as Brad mentioned, it would have to reach the ground to become a meteorite. Because what we're seeing in the sky is some sort of object burning up, right? So what's visible to our eye is small little burning of whatever this object is, and that object is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as it burns up through the atmosphere. So if something survives all the way to the ground and they find evidence of a meteorite, that'd be real interesting. We have had here in the Carolinas times where space debris have made it. In the past year or so, they found like a door of a SpaceX craft in western North Carolina, like a whole panel of a door that survived. And so that was a very large chunk of space debris. It wasn't found right away, but I think it was found by some hikers, if my memory serves correctly, last May, where they found that here in western North Carolina. So, in that instance, I can only imagine how large this object must have been that we were left with a large chunk, right? So, because whatever it starts with is bigger than what's going to make it to the ground, if anything makes it to the ground.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back. I'm thinking about what you're saying now, and I'm thinking back what you said previously. Imagine driving down 85 or this road here, and you see this. And this is from the Columbia area, Two Notch Road. Scary. I know that's cliche, but it's scary.
Yeah.
You don't know what that is. So,
and just like the emergency officials, all sorts of things are probably rushing through your brain.
Right.
Is it an aircraft?
Yeah.
Is it a firework?
We have to think about these dispatchers that are now getting an abundance of calls being like, there's a fire in the sky, and you can't see it, so you have to look at these videos, and people are trying to figure out what it is.
Try to decipher, as Carlene was saying, trying to decipher. You see these first responders, they're getting these calls, newsrooms getting these calls, and you're trying to decipher what it is. Like right now, we're just trying to decipher what it is in real time. All right, so we are approaching the top of the hour. Again, the big story right now, a quote fireball, reports of a quote fireball in the sky. We see it here in Charlotte, or we saw it here in the Charlotte area, but really across the Southeast.
Yeah, and so if you witnessed it, we hope, obviously you're watching us right now in Live Impact News. You may have already done this, but if you download the WCNC mobile app to your phone, you can click on Near Me, and you can send videos and photos right to our newsroom. Or you can text us 704-329-3600, 704-329-3600. And that's the best way to text Nick. If you ever wanted to text Nick, that's how you do it.
That is the best way to get in touch with me. All right, so do we want to put a pin in this and come back to it? We've been on it for quite a while. We're still working to get more information. So let's put a pin in this real quick. Again, we have a full web article up, and I promise we're going to get back to this, but we want to make sure we get some more content in, update you with more information.
Nick, one of the things we could do as we continue to news gather on this is we do have lawmakers speaking on Capitol Hill. These are senators who just had a closed-door briefing on Iran.
And we also have Meg here. We
do also have the wonderful Meg here.
We have Meg here. I don't want to. We have Meg. Let's shift gears. Let's reset. It is 2:01. We're a little past the top of the hour here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thank you for spending your Thursday. I was about to say Friday. It feels like Friday, but it's not. It's not.
You really want it to be Friday.
I do.
It's my Friday.
It's Meg's Friday. We would. So, Meg Bragg is here. Megan Bragg is here in the Live Impact. The Megan Bragg is here in the Live Impact News studio. So we're talking about Starlink, right? So you
What a great segue.
It really is. It really is.
Thanks for joining our space coverage, Meg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Starlink, you heard the name Starlink, especially after Hurricane Helene, right? It was a satellite internet service developed by SpaceX, which is founded by Elon Musk, and it became a tool to help folks in Western North Carolina and other parts who were impacted by Hurricane Helene reconnect. So our Megan Bragg is here. As I mentioned, here she is.
Hi.
So you're verifying the pricing impacts of Starlink. So what have you guys found? This is really interesting.
It is interesting. And actually how we found this is someone emailed in and said that they live in Western North Carolina. They were going to get Starlink. And they found that their pricing went up significantly. So they were asking why that was. And, obviously a little upset because they're in Western North Carolina. Helene hit. Obviously, people are paying for a lot of things to rebuild right now. So they were just a little frustrated and kind of wanted to know the reasoning behind that. So we did some digging. We went to Starlink themselves and went to their website and kind of got to the bottom of this. So back when this first happened, or back when Starlink was first out, it was $100 to join.
Okay.
In April, that went up to $250 to join. And right now in Western North Carolina and a lot of these areas, it's $500 to join.
Wow.
So, But there's a reason for that, and that's because they said, and this is a quote, in areas of high demand, there's an additional one-time charge to purchase Starlink services. This is only for new service plans, so it's not, you know, if you already have Starlink, they're not going to charge you a significant amount. And you know, the reason why is because the internet is an issue out there because it's rural and especially after Helene. And because of all of this demand, they have to keep up with it, right? I mean, if they continue just give it to people, that it's going to go, like the internet for them is going to be lower and lower for all these people. So it's like, if you really want this,
you have to pay.
Yeah, you have to pay kind of thing. So, with that, you know, it's not just Western North Carolina, it's in other areas where the demand is high. Obviously, it's a sensitive subject because Hurricane Helene and everything. But I do want to make a note, to be fair, that Starlink really did go in and provide free service until January, the end of January 2024. So because of Helene and everything, you just had to pay for the initial kit that came with it. But they really did play a big role in trying to help with Hurricane Helene. It's just now, you know, a lot of people getting it. And we know that when there's high demand, that pricing goes up. So that's what's going on right now.
It's a tricky situation.
It is a tricky situation. And, you know, I do want to note still, too, that it's not for people who already have this. You know, it's not going to affect any of the customers right now. It's just people who are trying to get Starlink. So.
And this may be a curveball, but is there any possibility they come down the price of Starlink?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would think it would come down when it's not so jam-packed with requests for Starlinks, right? When areas start recovering, internet can go more into those places. You have to think that, you know, so much of Western North Carolina was devastated. And you know, we are like, oh yeah, they're cleaning up, they're doing a great job, but it's going to take time, right, for these things to get back online. And so a lot of people need their internet to connect with loved ones, to see what's going on in the world. So yeah, that's why that's going on.
And when can folks catch your story this evening?
They can catch my story. I always do
I
this.
always ask you that question. Hold on, I got you.
You'll have to watch all of the news.
All the news.
Watch
Just
me
keep watching
the whole time. Yeah. I'll be on at 4 for traffic, and then
6:15.
So, okay, I'm
6:15.
6:15.
So just watch just watch this all the way through. Starting right now, just keep the TV on.
Okay.
That very interesting story, very critical story. Meg, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And happy Friday.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
All right. Meg and I got a chance to chat about that story earlier before I hit. Very interesting. Definitely check that story out. And it also will be on our website, WCNC.com, and also on our mobile app. I'm looking at the screens. Are we talking Hornets next? Why not?
Let's do it.
All right, and I promise you, I just want to point this out. I promise you we will update you as soon as we learn more on the fireball situation. Quote unquote, thank you, Carlene. The quote unquote fireball that flashed across the sky across the southeast. Saw it here in Charlotte. So you see that video there. That's dash cam video. That is cell phone video. We'll get back to that. I promise you, as soon as we get more information, we will update you on this story. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thank you. I know I said this a lot, but thank you for your time. And thank you for tuning in and taking the time to take this news journey with us, developing story journey and breaking news journey with us. All right, so the big day. Big day. Yesterday was a big day too, but today's a big day. It's second round of the NBA draft. And we had a fantastic special last night. Shout out to Jeb. Shout out to Nick Carboni. Shout out to Danielle Stein. Shout out to Locked On Sports. Shout out to Logan Campbell. Shout out to, I'm missing some folks. I don't have the names readily available, but shout out to everybody that was involved in this. It looked fantastic. It was great. I was going back and forth between the special and to the actual draft, and it was great perspective. So you don't want to miss specials like this here on WCNC Plus. And last night after the draft, or after the first round pick. And our first round pick, I should say, is Con Knipple out of Duke. So he's staying here in North Carolina. He's a Midwest guy, a freshman at Duke. I had a pretty decent year this past year at Duke alongside the number 1 pick, Cooper Flagg. Pick number 4. I think a lot of people expected him to be picked at number 4 to the Hornets. Hornets made some move. They ended up trading Mark Williams for to the Suns for their number 1 pick next year, their first round pick next year. Also, they got Liam McNeely, another shooter out of UConn. So the Hornets making some strides here. So last night we heard from Jeff Peterson, the GM of the Hornets. Here's what he had to say.
Yep. No, very excited. Just really, proud of our group, our scouting group, analytics, strategy, coaching department. Like everyone had, played a huge role into our process. And look, we got, a couple guys that we feel really, really good about moving forward with. So exciting.
Jeff, what was it about Con that made you pick him for?
I think he just has a combination of, skill, IQ, versatility. He embodies just what we want to be about from a Hornets DNA standpoint. He makes others better. He doesn't need the credit. He's happy for his teammates. So I could go on and on and on. Of course, the shooting. But yeah, we saw him early on in the process and really identified him and continue to follow him. So we're excited to have him as a Hornet.
How does he help your guard depth, do you think, overall?
Yeah, I think just again with the shooting, and he's more than just a shooter. He's a versatile player, but of course the shooting that helps. I think with spacing when you got LaMelo and Brandon out there, just the gravity that he'll provide on the floor. But again, he can handle it some. I think you saw that actually when they played here in the ACC tournament when Cooper got hurt and he kind of had to shoulder the load at that position. So. Again, just his overall versatility is going to help us a ton.
You obviously made one deal tonight. Was there a chance to make another deal, meaning like obviously Ace Billy was there at 4. Was there a chance to kind of maybe get some more assets and move back? What happened there at 4?
Yeah, we had some opportunities to move back. I certainly had some conversations, but again, we felt like it wasn't worth the cost, I would say, to move back to potentially miss out on Con. So.
Con told us that he had a dinner with you and Charles early in the draft process, and he said that he felt really good after that. What is that memory to you, and did you kind of walk away from that dinner with a similar feeling?
Yeah, it was a great dinner. We ate too much, but he, for me, I think you go the entire season of watching these guys play, and then you get to sit with them for hours and get to know their personality and truly figure out what makes them tick, what motivates them. So just getting more insight to his personality was great. I think he wasn't very excited about Charles and I. He was very excited though about Andy Dalton, who was in the restaurant with us. So Supperland. We went to Supperland. Yeah.
If the season started today, you might have a 6'9" center in Musa. How much of a priority right now, either be it the rest of this draft or going forward the rest of the summer, is to possibly find a solid 6'11" or 7-footer?
Yeah, I'd like to. I think we would like to continue to add some depth to the front court. Of course, we still have Nurkic on the roster as well, so who gives us size and just he's been in the league forever, so experienced. So with Nurkic and Musa, I feel good there. But again, I do think we would like to add some depth in that position.
Was getting back into the first round something that you were pretty predetermined to do today, or was it something that as the first round went on, you saw an opportunity later on in the evening? Yeah,
I'd say it happened a little bit earlier this morning. We started to get some calls about, things could move around a little bit. I can't get into all the details of the trade, of course, but again, we felt good about it. As I've always said, like we're going to always be strategic and opportunistic. Anytime we could pick up 2 first-round picks, we're gonna take a hard look at that.
You mentioned that Con Knipple ACC tourney run here in Charlotte. How much, because Cooper Flagg goes down, he's pretty much the guy on offense for them. How much did that influence your decision to take him?
I wouldn't say it influenced it. It certainly helped. More than anything, I think it just kind of showed his versatility and his ability to rise to the occasion. again, Cooper goes down, and defense, they're going to lock in on him and game plan for him. So, and he was able to handle the pressure. So it certainly helped. I don't think it wasn't the end all be all to the decision, but it was a valuable piece.
Talking about that meeting with them, there were some reports about you guys not meeting with some prospects, but I know you've kept them secret in the past with Tijon. Did you work out all the players that you wanted to, and how much do you prioritize a personal workout with the team when deciding to pull the trigger on the guy?
Personal workouts are important. With that said, I've been a part of plenty of draft processes where you don't get to work out a prospect that you want to, just because of the range that you're picking in. Inevitably the agents, they do their job of trying to protect their players from, I'd say, working out for teams that realistically they're not in their range. So, but again, that's why we go watch games throughout the season and have Zoom interviews with these guys, whatever it may be, meet them in Chicago to get to know them more. So.
How do you feel about shooting with both prospects you added tonight? What does that say about the team from last year, what you guys are trying to revamp, and what it looks like going forward?
Yeah, I think, look, shooting's a premium in this league. So I think anytime you can add shooting, you got to take a hard look at it. But again, I think that the thing about both of these guys, Con and Liam, they're more than just shooters. They both come from obviously incredible programs, coached very well. Very tough. So, again, we're excited about just their overall package. But of course, the shooting is a bonus as well.
Going back to the guards, we have a chance to ask you about Trey Mann, obviously, and just where is he right now with you guys, and do you want him to come back and be a part of this team?
Yeah, bringing Trey back is a priority for us. So I'm having conversations with Trey and his representation, and I think I don't see any reason why he's not back.
I know it's early, but I mean, as you start to shape next year's roster, after tonight and then going tomorrow, the free agency, do you anticipate a big change overall in the makeup of the team?
I don't think so. As we stand here right now, no. I mean, but again, I always got to be strategic and look at everything. So, if something comes my way, I got to take a look at it. But right now, I don't. I think right now we're just focused on the second round.
People are pointing out a lot of similarities between the two players you took tonight. What are the differences between Con and Liam?
Yeah, I think Con, I would say he's probably, again, he handled the ball a little bit more at Duke than Liam did at UConn. Liam can handle some, but I think, again, their overall size, Liam's a little bit taller. Con probably can guard down a little bit more. Liam can go up. So they have some differences for sure.
Looking at what you did tonight and the overall scope of the roster, what are some types of players you think you're going to target tomorrow in round 2?
Look, we always want competitors. We do value positional size. We value shooting, IQ. Again, those are kind of the core tenets that we like to look for. Of course, relative to position. So, fortunately, we're at the top of the second round, which I like both of those picks a lot. I think we'll get a couple of really good players. Hopefully, who's in front of us, Boston and Minnesota, don't take anyone from us, and we'll be able to get a couple more good players.
Both guys you added have played with some really spectacular players, either high school, college, or both. How much does that bring value to their readiness to play in the NBA and maybe be complementary to Lamelo, Brandon, and the other guys you have?
Yeah, it's a good point. Liam obviously coming from Montverde, and then of course going to UConn, and then Con at Duke. Again, I just think those guys they're built for the moment. The pressure doesn't get to them. They've lived it. Again, they're coached really, really hard. They put the time in, they work. So I would say both. Of course, there's going to be somewhat of a learning curve when they get to this level, but again, I think both are ready to rise to the occasion.
Charles was very excited on the Zoom call with the draft party. What was his reaction, or what was his input on these two guys?
He was very excited in person. Again, throughout this is why Charles is great, because he likes to be a part of the process. He studies film on these guys. He, of course, he came to the draft workouts. Even during the season, he'll ask me about different college prospects. So very excited that we were able to get Con and Liam.
All right, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. That is Jeff Peterson, the GM of the Charlotte Hornets. That was His press conference from last night after the first round, the Hornets drafted Con Knipple at number 4, a guy from Duke, so he's staying in the Carolinas. All right, so we want to shift now to the State Department briefing that is happening right now. And I just want to point out, this comes after Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth doubled down today on how destructive the U.S. attacks had been on Iran's nuclear facilities and described in detail the study and planning behind the bombing mission. Again, this is State Department briefing that is happening. Let's take a listen in.
And see if we get an answer.
And then for something completely different, and I'll stop after this, just are you aware of any RIFs being issued today?
At this time, I have nothing to announce on that front. I'm not aware of anything to that effect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Tom. I'll keep with the reorganization. So I'm just wondering, so you guys have the July 1st deadline for state reorg, right? There's an injunction by a federal judge that effectively blocks the department from implementing agency-wide layoffs. And there's SCOTUS potentially weighing on this. So can you tell us, if we don't hear from SCOTUS by July 1st, which is Tuesday, is the State Department still going to go ahead with reduction in force?
Well, I'm not going to speculate and tell the future on hypotheticals, but I can tell you we have no plans here at the department to violate a court order.
Right, so you're saying that if SCOTUS between now and July the 1st does not weigh in on this, then the July 1st deadline will inevitably be postponed?
Well, my first answer stands, and I'm not going to speculate further on that. We have no plans here at the department to violate a court order.
One more on this. We understand the Foreign Affairs Manual recently has been tweaked to prepare for the foundation of the RIF procedures. This administration has eliminated DEI, and it said it's bringing back merit-based. However, we understand that some of the RIFs will depend on where a foreign service officer, for example, is working at the moment. And there are critics who are saying that that type of criteria basically ignores the years of knowledge, experience, language skills these officers have accumulated. So can you help us understand how this is going to be completely merit-based?
Well, look, what I can say is from the beginning, as the Secretary has said, this reorganization is about making sure we're able to meet the challenges of the 21st century, being able to move at the speed of relevance, as the Secretary says. It's about empowering people instead of a bureaucracy. And I think it's also important to note the process of this from the beginning, a full transparency in this process, communicating with the American people, with Congress, from the very beginning on this. So the point of this reorganization is, again, to move at that speed of relevancy. Again, I'll stress that I don't want to speculate moving forward exactly on what may happen, but I think it's important to remember the track record of how we got here and the ultimate point of this and what the American people, I think, would expect when it comes to meeting those challenges that we face today.
Could I ask a follow-up, though?
Yeah.
If the point is to move at the speed of relevancy, would experience, language, and previous posts, wouldn't that play into consideration?
Well, ultimately what we're seeing here is wanting to make sure the State Department is able to meet those challenges. That's been this whole process that's been communicated from the beginning to make sure we're effectively meeting those challenges.
Would you take those into consideration?
Well, I think
language proficiency, for instance.
Well, again, I don't want to speculate on certain individuals or get too specific on hypotheticals. But what I can say, as the Secretary has said, is this reorganization is about making sure we're empowering people, not bureaucracy, that we're able to meet those challenges in an effective way. He has spoken to that routinely. He has spoken to that publicly. That's the point here, and I think the American people expect to see that.
If I may, I also wanted to follow up on something that Matt raised on the GHF. There's been a lot of criticism, almost universal criticism, from the Arab world, from the UN and others, about the distribution process, 4 limited sites in southern Gaza, no access in northern Gaza, the deployment of IDF troops, monitoring access in violation of certain international norms and the Geneva Conventions. Can you tell us, as the U.S. is about to begin funding, whether they are expanding the sites to more sites so that they can equal what the World Food Program and others had done previously?
Well, look, what I can say is, again, that 46 million meals distributed to date. That's something that should be applauded. We've talked about here in the past different distribution sites that have been opened, but I think this is an example of seeing that aid that has been distributed and President Trump's commitment, Secretary Rubio implementing that vision here to get aid to the people of Gaza. So we're seeing those 46 million meals, and then we're seeing from there the fact that we're seeing this $30 million approved.
If I may, if you do the math, there are 2 million people in Gaza. If you figure that families have multiple children and that this process has been going on now for nearly a month, 46 million meals don't amount to feeding the population of Gaza.
Well, it's 46 million meals that have been distributed. That is a positive thing. And we call on other countries to support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in its work as we have this $30 million that are approved. We're seeing the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in line with President Trump's call to deliver aid in a way where it can't be looted by Hamas. We're seeing those creative solutions. We're seeing the fact that we have 46 million meals distributed. That is good news that we have those meals being distributed, and we call on other countries to join in supporting the GHF's work.
Can I follow up on that, please, Tommy?
Okay.
Every time there's been a distribution in some of those centers, there's been chaotic scenes, and according to the Palestinian sources, shots and people actually dying, heading towards these centers. Now, the Israeli army is saying it's investigating all that, but it seems to be a pattern from the beginning. So do you have no issue with that whatsoever? What's your take on that?
Well, there are two factors here. First, we refer you to the IDF on their investigations. Second, I would remind you that many of these reports, some of these reports, are based in Hamas propaganda. So we have two factors here when it comes to some of these reports. Ultimately, we want to see aid reach the people of Gaza. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has delivered 46 million meals. We've seen that. We want to see that food being delivered. We see the $30 million approved. So that's what the story is here, moving to implement, get those creative solutions in there to make sure that the aid being distributed is not being looted by Hamas.
And just to follow up on that, you said $30 million. Has that money actually been given to the foundation already?
It's been approved. That's as far as I can go on that front. Yes.
Yeah, just to follow on what everyone is asking about, you say you want to see aid get into Gaza. Are you pushing the Israeli government to allow other groups into Gaza to distribute aid? Today, GHF was the only one allowed into the Strip.
What we're pushing for is for other countries to join us in supporting the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's work. That's what we're pushing for.
Groups who had been established and had methods that were able to distribute more widely before the restrictions of the Israeli government. So are you asking them to also lift these restrictions?
What we're pushing for is for other countries to support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's work. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation being able to deliver that aid without it being looted by Hamas. And again, that's about that creative solution that President Trump has said from the beginning. So we call on other countries to support the GHF in this. Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. Just to follow up, I'm sure that 46 million meals are very good, and the Palestinians appreciate that. But that, as Andrea said, that translates to about 20 meals per person over, a period of a month, because it's been a month since they started this thing. So there are only like 4 centers. So are there any plans to expand these centers to make more opening, more entry points and so on for aid and all these things? Because Gaza used to receive, 1,000, maybe a couple thousand trucks of food a day. So the situation is very dire.
So I don't have anything to preview in terms of future plans here. I'm not going to get into that here. I can say what we've seen in the past is distribution sites opening. We've seen a ramp up of the meals being delivered. And I think, again, the story here is 46 million meals being delivered to the people of Gaza. That is the story here.
Right. But just if I may follow up, very, very quickly. Yeah, but also it has been a death trap. I mean, everybody is documenting that Palestinians are being killed at these centers and so on. Many of them are afraid to go. There's a looming disaster. I mean, are you talking to the Israelis? Are you urging them not to be trigger happy and confronting very hungry people who are so desperate that they're probably grabbing stuff and so on?
Well, I answered your question earlier, but I think it's also important to recognize that Hamas bears sole responsibility for this conflict, as has been stated from this podium several times by spokesperson Tammy Bruce. The fact that we're seeing Hamas act in certain ways, and really in barbaric ways, that they've continually done that. So Hamas bears sole responsibility for this conflict. And again, the story here is the 46 million meals that have been able to be distributed to the people in Gaza during this time, and the fact that we're encouraging other countries to also support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Yes.
Thanks, Tommy. Sticking on the JHF, do the Americans plan on playing, other than the role of a benefactor here, any other role in terms of management, in terms of security? There were 8 Palestinian GHF contractors that were shot dead, last week. What is the role here, other than here's cash?
Well, look, fundamentally, again, we wanted to make sure we get those resources in a way that helps deliver that food, helps deliver that aid. I have no further details for you at this time. We may have more details in the days ahead. But ultimately, this is about those 46 million meals and trying to get more aid into Gaza in the sense of that $30 million that's been approved for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Special Envoy Witkoff stressed moving forward with the Abraham Accords. President Abbas wrote a letter to President Trump, basically, congratulating him on the Iranian ceasefire, expressing his desire to move forward with the peace process here. I'm trying to figure out, because there's been almost no discussions between, at least publicly, between the State Department and the Palestinian Authority. I know Tammy always says just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not going on. But where if Hamas is going to be out of the picture, maybe Arab countries don't know where it's going, what is the State Department's vision for future Palestinian Authority involvement in the region? What is the vision? What is the policy?
Well, right now, what we're looking at is trying to get a ceasefire. That is our focus. Our focus now is the ceasefire we need to see. Our focus is getting to that ceasefire, standing with Israel's right to defend itself, its right to protect itself. That's where we are currently. That's where our focus is. And that's where it's going to remain until we reach those goals. Yes?
Hi, Tommy, I'm going to stick on this subject just for a little bit more. You keep saying that the story is the distribution of 40+ million meals, and we're trying to just point out all of the other multifaceted angles of what's going on here, given that the government is about to invest a lot of money into this. So I'm just wondering, why, again, to Jenny's question, does this mean the U.S. government doesn't support the World Food Program trying to get into Gaza right now? If not, why not? We're just trying to get a clear answer on why is it just one organization and not the others?
Well, as I just said, what this indicates is the fact that we have $30 million approved for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's what this indicates. We've also seen the Gaza Humanitarian, as I was saying, been able to deliver aid in a way that is not being looted by Hamas. The story here, again, as I've said, as you pointed out, is that 46 million meals. That's the story here, and the fact that we're encouraging other countries to step up and support this. The President's been clear. He's been looking for those creative solutions to get aid into Gaza. This is one of those indicators showing a follow-through on that commitment from Secretary Rubio here implementing that vision at the State Department.
I don't know, sorry, if I could just have one more. I don't know if you've seen, in the last couple of weeks, there was an American security contractor who used to work for the organization. He wrote his experience in ZTO, and he described how the contractors, the Americans going to work for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, were themselves not getting enough sleep, not getting enough to eat. He describes how some of the contractors were picking up food from the ground, food that was supposed to go to the Palestinian people. I'm just going to very quickly read this to you. He said, "We're telling crying women trying to pick up food for their families that they had to go, and they were looking at this food on the ground that they desperately needed, and they couldn't take it." He said it was absolutely horrific. So when you say the story is that they are getting millions of meals out, the other side of it is that there are many more people who are not getting food, and it's not enough food. And the security situation on the ground, other stories are starting to come out about people who are actually there. So do you have a comment on the experience of some of these contractors who you're about to fund?
Well, every single one of these briefings, every single day, we have conversations about the situation in Gaza. Every single day, we have those conversations. And every single day, we've been working in terms of trying to figure out creative ways to get aid to the people of Gaza. Every single day, we've been working on that. The humanitarian situation, trying to address that. Every single day. And what we're seeing here is that $30 million commitment to this organization. That is what we're seeing. That is the commitment that President Trump laid out in terms of trying to get those creative solutions in there. So that's really what we're talking about here, that $30 million going to that organization, the 46 million meals. But of course, we're aware of what's happening in Gaza. That's part of why the president had this commitment to get aid in there, but also to get to that ceasefire, get to that peace, talking about long-term prosperity for everyone in the region. The fact that the people of Gaza have suffered tremendously under the hands of Hamas. The president has spoken about this continually, so has Secretary Rubio. So that's part of what we're seeing here, that $30 million to this foundation. And we encourage, as I said, other countries to also join in supporting this effort. Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. On Iran, there's been perhaps mixed messaging on the diplomatic outlook. The president has said he doesn't think a deal is necessary, but Special Envoy Witkoff said yesterday that he's hoping for a comprehensive peace agreement. If talks with Iran do indeed happen next week, as the president said they would, can you say what the goal would be for those discussions?
Well, I refer you to my colleague Caroline. She spoke about this at the press briefing at the White House. One of the things that she said there was the goal of an Iranian meeting is to obtain long-standing peace in the region, and I have nothing further to add to her comments.
So no nuclear agreement would that be necessary? Can you say
Again,
what
nothing
the
to add in addition to my colleague Caroline's comments.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, right here. Yep. You.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd. You mentioned Israeli army investigations into some of the food distribution incidents at these GHF sites. On June 2nd, Ambassador Huckabee attacked the press for reporting on some of the scenes of chaos and bloodshed. And he said that all the meals back then initially had been distributed smoothly and with, quote, without incident. Will the ambassador amend his statement against the press if the Israeli army confirms that there had indeed been chaos and bloodshed at the aid distribution sites?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on the future there. What I can say is, as refer you to my earlier answer about the two dynamics that we're dealing with here.
Secondly, there's been some reporting from Israel today about what happens next, assuming there's a durable ceasefire that endures, including the US and Israel talking about bringing Syria and Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords, and that a peace plan could help Arab countries help administer Gaza if Hamas is removed. Are you able to talk about that at all, or describe the administration's next focus for the region?
I'm not going to speculate. As I said, our focus remains on achieving that ceasefire. Yes.
Today in Riyadh, there was a meeting between Saudi Foreign Prince Faisal bin Farhan and U.S. Special Envoy Tom Barak. Can you give us more details or read out about the meeting?
Nothing to preview here. I'll take back your question and see if there's anything we're able to share.
I have a follow-up about the GHF. You said that there are investigations. Or are you aware that there are investigations from the Israelis? Because you said that they are looting by Hamas, but we are seeing kids dying. So why they are using force when there are kids like just trying to get food that they are in dire need for?
As I said, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is part of why we have seen the president call for creative solutions to get aid into Gaza. It's important to remember, though, that, as I said again, Hamas bears sole responsibility for this conflict. That is fundamental, and what we're seeing here is the president saying we need creative solutions to get aid into Gaza, and we're seeing $30 million approved to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in order to support those efforts.
There's force used next to kids who are in dire need of food. Why are the IDF using force and like bullets next to kids who are trying just to get some flour?
Well, as I, again, refer you to my earlier answer of the two dynamics here. The fact that there are some examples, and the IDF has said publicly that they are investigating, I refer you to them on their investigation, but also that there are examples, of Hamas propaganda. So there are two different dynamics here. I refer you to them on their question. Yes?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy. Two questions. The Russian Defense Secretary Andrei Belousov announced that thousands of North Korean engineer corps would be sent to help rebuild Kursk. Kursk is Ukraine territory. Do you think this will be an issue between Russia and Ukraine in ceasefire talks?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time? I missed the first part of your question.
First part, the Russian Defense Defense Secretary Belousov announced that thousands of North Korean engineer corps would be sent to help rebuild Kursk, Ukraine territories. So do you think this will be an issue between Russia and Ukraine in ceasefire talks?
On the issue of North Korea's support for Russia or vice versa, we've spoken to that multiple times from this podium. I refer you to those earlier comments from myself and spokesperson Bruce. As the president has said many times, we hope to see that ceasefire, that long peace. We've been working for that, engaging with that. Ultimately, it is up to the parties in order to reach that.
One more. Do you know how much will the U.S. increase its defense cost sharing with South Korea, and when will you discuss this issue?
Let me take back your question and see if we can get some further details for you.
Somewhat related to that, can I just ask a logistical thing, and just very quick? You mentioned the Quad meeting that the Secretary is going to be hosting.
Yes.
He is still planning to meet with these foreign ministers individually before Quad meeting, right?
I'll see what we're able to read out. At this point, I can confirm the Quad meeting, but I'll see if I can get you more details on that.
Can I go to Africa? What you asked, what you talked about at the beginning. What exactly is being signed tomorrow? Because Nobel Peace Prize winner Denis Mukwege said that this peace process has been opaque, non-inclusive, that this deal rewards aggression. I mean, there was he's been very critical of this, so I'm wondering what exactly is being signed here.
Also, first of all, as you mentioned, tomorrow Secretary Rubio will host the ministerial signing of the peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda right here at the State Department. There are provisions on respect for territorial integrity and a prohibition of hostilities, disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism that incorporates the CONOPS of October 31st, 2024, facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as humanitarian access and a regional economic integration framework. So, though I would stress also what was mentioned in my topper, that it is with implementation of this agreement that the economic investment and development we all want to see will be possible.
So you talk about regional framework, but this is just between two countries, and there are a lot of countries involved in this conflict.
Well, I think ultimately, again, refer you to the comments I just had there. There'll be more information as we approach the day itself. But this is good news. This is good news. This is a fantastic achievement. We're proud to support this effort, and we applaud this effort. Yes.
So I have two questions on China. One is that China reportedly is tracking down these rare earth exports, and seizing the passports. Can you please confirm that? And secondly, as the State Department increases scrutiny on the student visas of foreign students, particularly from China, I'm wondering if the department has concerns about the Chinese student associations in the U.S., given their ties to the Chinese consulates. And they have been described as a tool to extend Chinese influence.
So on your first question, I'll take that back, see if we can get you some details on that. On the second, on student visas and on our visa policies here in general, what I can say is that every single visa decision is a national security decision. And that's something that Secretary Rubio takes incredibly seriously. And I think it's the American people want that to be taken seriously, the ability to properly vet certain rules, regulations. Every single visa decision is a national security decision, no matter who you are applying for a visa. And that's, like I said, something the Secretary takes very seriously. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. That is State Department briefing in D.C. It is just wrapped up there. We brought it to you live, streamed the entire press conference there. Again, just wrapping up. All right, I'm coming back out here live. Thank you for staying with us this afternoon. 12:41. We've had a lot going on, including this video right here. This is cell phone video of a, quote, fireball streaking across the sky. Now, we got reports around 12:30, 12:45. These are new images that we just got into our newsroom. So this is, I had the address.
Yes. This is outside Lexington. This is Lexington near Columbia. So that's west of Columbia.
Highway 378,
yes.
Approaching Lexington. So you see it there, that streak, that, quote, fiery ball. This is dash cam video of the southbound lane, I-85. You see it right there on the left part of your screen, left side of your screen. And this is near the Columbia area, Two Notch Road. See it right there. That's cell phone video. Again, a fireball streaking across the sky, quote, fireball streaking across the sky. I want to read what we have. Let me refresh our web article.
This is an angle, by the way. This new photo is in the Macon area.
Macon
south
area.
Of Atlanta.
Okay.
Just letting our viewers know, since that's a new photo. But go ahead, Nick.
Here's what we have posted on our web article, and you can read much more there on our website, WCNC.com, and also on our mobile app. So multiple people in county agencies across North Carolina and South Carolina reported seeing a fiery ball falling from the sky Thursday afternoon. The first report started coming in around noon, with several people saying it appeared to be falling debris like a meteor or asteroid streaking across the sky. WCNC Charlotte's newsroom has received multiple calls about the fireball since it was spotted around 12:30. Multiple Reddit users reported seeing it on Interstate 485. It also reported seeing it on in Atlanta, Greenville, and Charleston. Just to name a few, across the Southeast, we have been getting reports. We actually checked in with Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. He's at a conference right now, but he got a chance to check in with us and give us a perspective on what exactly we may be seeing. Let's listen into that interview from earlier on in the stream. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Brad, you are not at work, obviously, but of course, work calls. What are you hearing?
So I've actually seen the videos, guys, a couple of times, and I will just tell you this. Looking at the videos, the two things I notice, this is very low in the atmosphere. So I'm kind of curious if this was not some kind of piece of space debris, a rocket body, maybe a degrading satellite, or some other piece of space junk. For something to be that bright in the middle of the day, it most likely was burning up in the atmosphere. It was a pretty large chunk of whatever it was. I am curious, though. I haven't seen any reports of sounds, because if it's sounds, then you would have heard this lower in the atmosphere making a sonic boom of some kind. So I will be curious to see if this ends up being a piece of space junk or something else, because if it was a meteor, it would have to have been a really large meteor to be that bright in the middle of the day.
Brad, I guess my initial question is, have you come across anything like this? Is there anything you can compare this to?
I've seen like space debris break up like this and happen in the middle of the day. There was one meteor that happened in Russia, I think about 15 years ago now, that was very large, caused a sonic boom and actually caused destruction near the surface. And it looked like this, but it was going horizontally across the sky. This was going vertical, like straight down, which makes me think that this was probably something that either came back into orbit and then moved straight down and burned up. But I will be curious to see if we end up finding this as space debris. There's actually a guy I know, I'm actually going to try to contact him after I'm done with you, that tracks space debris to see if there was anything in the area that possibly could have accounted for this this piece of debris. But I tell you what, my phone was blowing up, guys, just like yours. Started getting all these messages. And when I started getting the messages, I thought when they said that happened around 12:25 or whatever, I was like, last night? I thought it was at nighttime, and they said, no, today, during the middle of the day, which shocked me because no one wouldn't see anything like this in the middle of the day. So this is pretty rare, and the fact that everybody saw it, too, is pretty rare.
I just want to point out, Brad, this would happen when you're away from work and at a conference.
Well, the irony is I'm at the American Meteorological Society, not the American Meteor Society. And we actually had an expert talk about meteor showers on Monday. So I was going to try to see if he was still here so I could talk to him. But I don't know if he's still here. But he was talking about some of the meteor showers this year. And we're not in one right now. So that would be just a rogue piece of meteor. But one of the things I remember from his presentation on Monday was most of the meteors that you see at night, the AK shooting stars, are literally the size of a grain of sand. And they happen way up in the atmosphere, way above where we are at the ground. This, to me, just on the videos alone, and again, sometimes perspective could be wrong, this looks much lower in the atmosphere. So whatever this was, it survived longer. It was able to get really, really bright. And probably because of that, there might be some meteorite or piece of debris that made it to the surface, which would be then called a meteorite.
Brad, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you. James, do you got anything before we get out of here?
No, but just in terms of transparent news gathering, if you do find any experts, Brad, please give us a holler.
Yes.
We will be here.
Well, Yeah, I'm going to go ask around and see if I can get some information. I have a couple NASA contacts, like I said, that might be able to give us at least some possibly what it was, whether it was a meteor or a piece of space debris. You pretty much know because the orbits of the space debris are tracked pretty diligently. So if it was a piece of space debris, we should have an idea of what was in this general area that could have fallen, and that would give us some ideas. If that becomes not in something that works out, then we can go start looking at radar data, because that's one thing I'm going to look at too, is the weather radar guys. If it was low enough in the atmosphere, it's possible that one of the local National Weather Service radars could have picked it up on the radar.
Brad, my friend, thank you for your time. Again, you can't get rid of us that easy, Brad.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, thank you for your time and giving us some context on this, Brad.
Yeah, I'll send you anything I know, guys. And yeah, anyone out there, I put it on my social media as well. If you have video, Ring camera, security footage, go check it right now, because it might give us more details and video that we can get. So go check those videos and see if you caught it on one of your security cameras.
Great point there. All right, that is Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich there. We will continue to get updates and check in with Brad throughout the day. Brad, again, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Great perspective from Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich there. Again, you see it right there. Quote, fireball streaking across the sky. Multiple counties, cities, states seeing this, quote, fireball, this streak across the sky this afternoon. We also got reports from Henry County. Henry County is in the metro Atlanta area of damage. And I just want to point out, there has been so far no correlation to what we're seeing to the damage. I just wanted to throw that out there, that we have reports of damage in Henry County, which is in metro Atlanta. But so far, it hasn't been confirmed if this is related to this, quote, fireball streak.
And to set magnitude expectations,
Yeah.
the damage is relatively small.
Yes.
Of what we're seeing, if that were to verify. But I don't want, just to help people
Yeah.
paint a mental picture of what the possibilities are, right? We talked earlier about how small this thing probably was as it burnt through the atmosphere. And if it made it to the ground, that would turn this meteor into a meteorite.
So this is a developing story. We continue to get images. We were talking about this during Brad's interview. And I have a rock star team in here who yes, that's the best way I can put it. You guys are rock stars, because we had maybe one piece of video, limited information, and throughout the afternoon, we've been able to try to update you guys in real time of what we had. So I want to thank everyone in here for that.
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Let's get the radar.
We have some things on
We have some
radar
things on the
tonight.
radar. James.
It's a weather alert day, Nick.
James,
Yeah.
it's your Friday, but it's not your Friday. It's not over yet.
Yeah, so we do have a few areas of storms popping off. You can see on our live impact radar, we do have some lightning strikes there. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center has us in a medium risk chance for storms across the foothills and the mountains. That is not really a tornado threat, but much like yesterday, we're talking about the possibility for hail and some damaging wind. So one of those storms right now, as you look at Futurecast, those storms will be kind of scattered throughout the area. We'll hear more from meteorologist Majestic Storm here in just a moment, but I wanted to show you that the heat advisory is now in effect. It's 2 o'clock. This goes until 8 o'clock, so we have heat indexes of 105 or above, and you can see those high temperatures today, 94 degrees. You combine that with the humidity, that's how we get that heat index. So we do have a severe thunderstorm warning for Bumpkin, McDowell, and Rutherford counties until 3:15. We'll watch to see if we get more storms across our area, but Nick, I think we can hand it over to the professionals from here.
Yeah, here is meteorologist Majestic Storm. Let's take a listen to it.
Well, we've made it another WCNC weather alert day because, yes, it is going to be another day of dangerous heat, but also because we're tracking another round of strong to severe thunderstorms. Now, this is a really interesting forecast as to what's happening right now. I mean, look at this. Perfect out there in Dallas. It is gorgeous, sunny and warm, and it's feeling pretty nice as well. But then look at this. We take you up to the mountains. It is rainy, it is wet, and those thunderstorms are already starting to develop. This is out in App State. I mean, mean, look at the ground just soaking wet right now. And the Storm Prediction Center has made some changes since the forecast this morning. Now, if you're watching from a county shaded in orange, you're now under a medium level risk for severe storms. What that means is if you're in Lincolnton, Shelby, Hickory, Morganton, Boone, Taylorsville, those storms have a better chance of developing. But even if you're watching in an area shaded in yellow like Charlotte or Rock Hill, still stay weather aware because an isolated thunderstorm may still be possible. We're already starting to see them form. I want to take you straight up to the mountains as we're looking at Doppler radar now. Watauga, Boone, out there towards Boone, we're seeing an isolated storm, kind of a cluster that's forming together, and it's continuing to track south. It's a slow-moving system, though only moving 5 miles an hour, but within some of those storms, radar has indicated that winds are gusting up to around 40 miles an hour. And if you're in northern Caldwell County, you may have even noticed that you got some hail as those storms started moving in initially. Now we're just seeing those impacts here from Blowing Rock out towards Banner Elk. Wherever you see pockets of reds and oranges and especially purples, that's where you either have perhaps some small-sized hail or heavy downpours where the rain's really coming down quite intensely, and we could even see some localized flooding for those locations. So again, we're watching the mountains right now as storms are already starting to form, and those storms could quickly turn strong to severe. If they do, again, we could see some hail. I also mentioned or talked to somebody on Facebook, and they let me know that they actually did receive some hail within those thunderstorms moving in right now in the mountains, and then strong damaging winds will actually be the greatest risk right here. So here's 4 o'clock this afternoon. Those storms will be ongoing, continuing to move from the mountains and then tracking a little just all over the place. This is not going to be a linear line of storms or anything like that. Very disorganized, but again, we can't rule out an isolated storm quickly turning severe. Waking up tomorrow morning for our Friday, it's going to be gorgeous, plenty of sunshine, and temperatures will cool down just a little bit back towards our average for this time of the year this upcoming weekend. Then for our Friday afternoon, another round of isolated strong to severe thunderstorms, and then as we're heading towards our Saturday, we could still see sunny skies, which I do think we'll see in the morning time, but then in the afternoon, another round of those pop-up thunderstorms. I don't think we'll have a risk for severe weather though come Saturday. We topped off at 100 degrees yesterday, and today is still going to be a hot one. 96 is our forecasted high. Here's a live look outside. Lake Norman, 85 degrees, feeling like it's 89 though, so definitely still dealing with that heat and humidity. It feels like it's 91 degrees in Gastonia, 91 in Lincolnton, and remember the heat and humidity that actually provides fuel for those storms to take off and go. Over the next 10 days, temperatures will gradually start to drop. Our average where we should be, it's about 88, 89 degrees, so we should be right around there on Wednesday, and then I know many of you're looking at the 4th of July already. We're going to be looking at that as well, as many people will have those plans, but notice that each and every day in my 7-day forecast, we do have the opportunity for showers and thunderstorms. But again, today is a weather alert day. Stay close to our weather team. Like always, we will be tracking those storms, especially if they do become severe, and again, strong damaging winds will be the #1 concern if they do.
All right, so this is a live look at the radar here. We are weather alert again. The last day this week that we are weather alert. It's been hot this week. We had some storms moving through that area. So yeah, make sure you have the app handy. Make sure you have Live Impact News. Our weather show at 6:30 is coming on. Make sure you just leave WCNC Plus on and have it handy, because we will give you real-time updates on that. All right, so we want to shift now to a press conference that is happening live. We're still working to get some more information on it, but what we can tell you, the AAPI Equity Alliance is holding this press conference right now. Let's take a listen into what's being said.
So, Sin, would you like to help answer, and I can add?
Well, thank you for your question. There have always historically been barriers to reporting for a variety of reasons, including language access, fear of entanglement with government, and in particular law enforcement agencies. So that has historically been a challenge. We do continue to receive reports, incident reports from Stop API Hate. That has not gone away, and of course our national survey and our California report specifically, again, establishes that this is an ongoing issue. Of course, in this new environment, it does exacerbate the fact that people may be even more hesitant to seek assistance and support, especially from government entities. And so this is one of the reasons why I think it's important to continue to support community-based organizations that have.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturter, and we want to shift over from this press conference to a press conference that's happening following a report received by lawmakers regarding the bombings in Iran last weekend. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
Who I think it's fair to say are not Donald Trump partisans. Use words like effectively destroyed, catastrophic damage, set back for years. That includes Rafael Grossi, the director of the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency. David Albright, a renowned and respected former weapons inspector in this field. Norm Rule, who was the National Intelligence Manager on Iran during the Obama administration. All again use phrases like effectively destroyed, catastrophic damage, set back for years. So without any classified information whatsoever, I think it's safe to say that we have struck a major blow alongside our friends in Israel against Iran's nuclear program that is going to make America safer, our friends in the region safer, and protect the world from the risk of an Iranian nuclear weapon for years.
Mr. Chairman, there was a report that the Trump administration is going to limit its briefings to members of Congress because of this leak. Have you pushed back on that?
I've seen the report. I'm not aware of that. No one in the Trump administration has raised it with me. I understand their frustration that just hours after that report from the Defense Intelligence Agency was posted to Congress's, it was leaked. Obviously, it was leaked by someone who was trying to put our pilots and their crews and the president and his national security team in the worst light. I don't know if it was from Congress. I don't know if it was from someone inside the administration opposed to the president's policy. But as I said, that report was preliminary. It was done with low confidence. It said it had numerous intelligence gaps. It assumed the worst case scenario with perfect conditions in Iran. I believe that this mission was a tremendous success and that we have effectively destroyed Iran's nuclear program today.
Mr. Chairman, how confident are you that the ceasefire can hold at this point, given especially what you heard in this week?
The ceasefire will hold if Iran lives up to its end of the bargain. If Iran starts trying to attack Israel again or to attack U.S. interests in the region again, then both the President and the Prime Minister have said rightly that we will have to go back and we'll have to show Iran once again that we mean business.
Senator Cotton, did the Democrats seem satisfied with this? They had expressed so many reservations about this.
They should be satisfied. They got very good answers from John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, from General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and from Marco Rubio, who I'd point out is not just the Secretary of State, he's also the National Security Advisor, something that I believe is almost unprecedented in terms of the access and briefing that the Democrats get. Now, maybe they're going to come out and tell you they're not satisfied. Some Democrats, some in the media seem to have such a case of Trump derangement syndrome that they're rooting for the survival of Iran's nuclear program versus celebrating the success of our pilots and their crews. But I think the answers they got in there should be totally satisfactory.
Was there discussion of leaks in there at all?
Yes, there was condemnation of the leaks by both the briefers and Republicans and Democrats for that matter. We should not ever leak classified information.
Mr. Chairman, if there's additional force required necessary to do further damage to Iran's nuclear program, do you think that action should be vetted or consulted through Congress?
Well, first off, as I said, I think we've caused catastrophic damage to Iran's nuclear program. That's not to say they might not try to reconstitute it at some time. But for those of you around 10 years ago during the debate over Barack Obama's nuclear weapons program, we often use the phrase vast nuclear infrastructure because it does take a vast infrastructure. And I know everyone's very focused on what happened at a couple of these underground bunkers or what happened with canisters of uranium. But if you look at the whole span of what happened over 12 days, the targeting of Iran's nuclear scientists, the underground bunkers, the centrifuge manufacturing sites, the gas to metal conversion sites. That's why we're confident, since all of those are single points of failure in an effort to get a nuclear weapon, that we have had an extraordinary success. Now again, both the President and Prime Minister Netanyahu have said that Iran should not try to reconstitute their nuclear weapons program, and if they do, then all options will remain on the table.
If this is true, if they should prosecute a top branch would rule that out last night.
Well, the law applies equally to everyone, and no one should leak classified information.
The people in both parties seem satisfied by the amount of damage caused. Is there agreement in the room?
I think you'll have to ask some of our Democratic colleagues. I suspect those who are satisfied won't stop here, and those who are dissatisfied will stop and
Do you have some sense of where the enriched uranium is at this point? Has the intelligence community figured that out at this point?
I don't have a comment on that. I will say it was not part of the mission to destroy all their enriched uranium or to seize it or anything else. Again, this is not a Mission Impossible movie. There's not a single thing out there that can be done or not done to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. It's the entire chain of events and people and places that you have to put together to get a nuclear weapon. The scientists, the centrifuges, the repair parts, centrifuge manufacturing, the cascades of centrifuges, the gas to metal conversion facilities. But I'm confident the mission was extraordinary.
But if that enriched uranium, we're not sure where that is. Senator Johnson, can you come over to the microphones, please?
I'd only like to say that it is so nice, it's so comforting to have a competent national security team in place. We heard an excellent briefing down there. I'm not going to give you any details, but I, for one, am comforted by having a president who is decisive, who took action to protect America, to protect our ally Israel, and at least for a while take away the threat of a nuclear Iran. So again, it's nice to have a competent team in place. Thank you.
Senator, on the bill.
We talked about the
On the bill. Where you obviously you're one of the people who raised the most concerns about the leadership says this needs to pass by this weekend, get it on the president's desk by July 4th. Is that the right thing to do, given the public has not seen this bill? Does it still being negotiated behind closed doors?
First of all, I haven't seen it. Again, there's nothing wrong with leadership setting deadlines to concentrate our efforts, and we're starting to work hard, so we'll stick around and we'll work hard. I'm going to head over to the White House right now. Our discussions are cordial. We all want to accomplish the same goal. I understand the enormous messes the Biden administration left us. An open border, wars raging, 4 years of an average deficit of $1.9 trillion. These things are not easy to deal with. So it's very difficult to clean up after the Democrats' messes. It's a hard thing to do. We're working cooperatively to do it. If it takes a few more days, a few more weeks, that's not a problem. This is an arbitrary deadline. It's been set to make sure that we do all the hard work, and we're trying to do it.
Will you proceed even if the bill is not done? Will you vote to proceed?
No, because I haven't seen the bill. I've got to see the bill. I want the conference to be able to discuss the bill. I want us to go through every provision, what the scores are, what we should leave in, what we should leave out. Again, that shouldn't take that long once we have the full bill, but we need the full bill. Again, what the parliamentarian did that was a little bit of a hand grenade, but I've been encouraged by what we heard in lunch. I think we can maybe, I don't want to certainly sour anything with the parliamentarian, but it sounds like we can overcome some of those objections and land in the right place here. I'm hoping that can happen.
Are you concerned about the growing cost of the bill, though, given so many things have been ruled out of order by the parliamentarian?
Listen, I think there are other areas where we can, return to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending, which is what I've always been looking at. I realize you can't do it in one single bill. My biggest concern, I don't want this to be a one-and-done bill. It's going to take multiple steps. So that's my main thing, is what can we do as a forcing mechanism to make sure that if we do a budget review panel and we do go line by line and program by program, and literally identify things, if we eliminate programs, hundreds of billions of dollars of spending, nobody even notice. I mean, when you go from $4.4 trillion of spending to $7 trillion, don't tell me there's plenty of savings left. we're trying to do something hard. We're trying to do it pretty fast. It'll take time and we'll need another bite at the apple here. So again, we're working very cooperatively. I appreciate what the White House and administration is doing in terms of helping set up a budget review panel to do that line by line, program by program review. Again, I'm looking at what's the forcing mechanism, so if we do the hard work, we actually have another bite at the apple to enact those.
How much worse will this make the budget deficit, this bill, if it were to become law? How much worse, in your opinion, will this make the deficit?
It kind of all depends. One thing that is intriguing is the tariffs are in place. They haven't sparked inflation. I was with Secretary Besson in his office a couple of days ago, and maybe something we should contemplate, because right now those are somewhat uncertain, held up in court. Maybe we should actually codify the tariffs. You talk about a revenue source, lower the rates broaden the base that is paid for in part by foreign companies and foreign governments. That's not that bad. So again, I'm not a big fan of tariffs. I think President Trump was probably right on this. This might, well again, it's not codified right now. If we hit a sticking point, that's maybe not a bad place to go in terms of assuring ourselves we have reduced deficits. Now, I really don't want to fund the deep state, but I also don't want to have these massive deficits. So I'm very open. I'm very flexible. I'm focused about we have to stop mortgaging our kids' future. It's unconscionable. It's wrong what we're doing. And again, I know the president shares that same goal. I think our leaders do as well. So again, to emphasize, Democrats, President Biden left us an enormous mess. Dug the hole far deeper than should have been dug. We're trying to dig out of it. That's a hard thing.
Are you open to overruling the parliamentarian?
All right, thanks for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus, taking over for Nick Sturdivant for the next hour. A couple of things to unpack from that briefing we just saw here live. Of course, we heard from two senators. Most recently, we heard from Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, who's with the Budget Committee. So you heard him talking about essentially the one big beautiful bill. We've mentioned before this week here on Live Impact News that there is a timeline to potentially take this bill to a vote in the Senate at the end of the week, possibly tomorrow. So we heard him as kind of one of the Republican holdouts. He actually apparently recently met with President Trump to discuss his concerns. He like some of the other Republicans who have reservations about this one big beautiful bill, has expressed a feeling that he thinks it doesn't cut spending enough. So you heard him remarking about that. Now, right before him, we heard from Senator Tom Cotton. He's from Arkansas. He is with the Armed Services Committee. And so we heard him talking about information he had just been briefed on regarding that strike on Iran from over the weekend on reported sites, nuclear facility sites. And we know that this week there has been a lot of, back and forth between how much damage did those strikes really cause. We heard the president right in the immediate aftermath of the strike saying that this was a major hit to Iran's nuclear program. He used the word obliterated to describe the damage that U.S. forces had done on these nuclear facilities. And then shortly afterwards, there were reports, and for example, NBC News had three sources with knowledge of the initial investigation into the damage, reporting that it was only actually just a few months that the program had been set back. So there was a disparity in some of the reporting of the damage. Well, Senator Cotton says that he heard more updated information, and it sounds like he feels more confident by his words that we just heard him speak here, the fact that the program sustained much more damage than the few months setback that we had heard most recently. So more on that to come. We are going to turn now to something that a lot of folks are talking about, particularly in the Southeast, and that's something we've covered extensively here today on Live Impact News. That's that fireball that was spotted in the sky across the metro Atlanta area, across really the Southeast, as we alluded to. There have been sightings reported in Georgia, South Carolina, here in North Carolina, Tennessee. And what we're hearing from experts here, this is being characterized as what's called a bolide. So this is large, it's rare, it's a fireball, it creates a sonic boom. And there you're seeing some video. I mean, certainly will catch your eye if you're driving along and you see that falling from the sky. So we're getting a little bit more insight now on exactly what this is. Is this concerning? What do we need to know about a bolide? AMS, so that's the American Meteor Society, operations manager Mike Hankey spoke with our sister station in Atlanta about the impacts of this bolide fireball. So let's listen in and let's get a little bit smarter together.
So, in from Thursday between 12:25 and about 12:40 across North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, of a fireball or meteor, bright streak through the sky. And also new reports coming in that we potentially had meteorite fragments that actually entered the roofs of some folks' houses down in Henry County. Joining me now to talk about this event that has really been the talk of town over the last hour is Mike Hankey, the operations manager with the American Meteor Society. Mike, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you.
So what can you tell us about the expansive size and number and frequency of reports that you've been getting in the fireball log on the American Meteor Society website?
Well, I just started working on this maybe 20 minutes ago, so I'm putting it all together still, but we've received over 200 reports in like less than 2 hours of this event. They all come in like right away. And that did cause some like downtime on our site, but we were still able to collect all the reports and process them and print a map that shows the witnesses and the trajectory path that's estimated from those reports. I can send this to you in an email. It's on our website now, but you would want to show this map probably if we're talking about it.
Sure.
There's a blue line that we compute, and I say estimated because we're just taking in what people are telling us. It's not like, I mean, it's scientific, but it's eyewitness report. So there's
and can you describe for us, where did those the reports, where do they spread from and to? What areas of territory are covered there?
They're mostly from, it looks to be the east of Atlanta and around the Atlanta area. A lot of times these can be impacted by weather. So a meteorite like this really could have been seen, like we have reports from North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, but there's no reports from Alabama, which tells me that there was some type of weather maybe that was obstructing some views. But yeah, quite a lot of people to the north, south, and east of Atlanta have reported this, and it looks that it occurred just south of Atlanta.
And for those who see, Mike, for those who see something like this in the sky and they wonder what on earth is this, can you describe to us very briefly what is a fireball, what is a bolide, how do you classify them, and what's that process of it kind of lighting up as it comes into Earth's atmosphere? What are the physics going on there?
So every time an object hits Earth's atmosphere from space, it's going from a vacuum to a dense atmosphere, and that causes friction, and it causes this illumination of light that we see in the sky, and that light's usually directly proportional to the the speed and the size of the object. So larger objects tend to be brighter, and so on, and last longer in the sky. When an object reaches deep enough in the atmosphere, it creates a sonic boom. We see this with the space shuttle, with SpaceX launches that come back down, and we see them with meteorites, meteorite falls. When an asteroid, a fragment of an asteroid comes through the atmosphere, it survives because it's large enough and the angle was just right on the Earth. It breaks apart and hundreds of stones fall to the ground. If it happens in a populated area, which it sounds like this one did, you're going to potentially get rocks hitting houses and that kind of thing.
And those rocks hitting houses, how fast estimated would they be traveling? Do they slow down a lot? Obviously, they slow down quite a bit in Earth's atmosphere, but if they're creating a sonic boom, they must be moving quickly with a lot of force.
They are moving very fast, and when they hit Earth's atmosphere, they could be going 50,000 miles per hour or faster, but they quickly decelerate, and by the time they come and they stop all their cosmic velocity at like 20,000 or 30,000 feet up, and by the time they hit your roof, they're going about the speed of a golf ball or maybe a little bit faster. So still hundreds of miles an hour, but a far cry from the 50,000 miles an hour. You don't want to get hit by one. They can cause a lot of harm, damages. They'll go through multiple floors of a home oftentimes. But believe it or not, it is a blessing to have your home hit by a meteorite because it's a very rare thing to happen, as long as no one's hurt in the process.
That is amazing. And like I mentioned at the top of this, we do have a reporter on the way to Henry County where we have had reports from emergency managers there that actually one of those tiny little fragments went so quickly through someone's roof. Is it safe to say, Mike, that the people who thought that they felt an earthquake or they heard that boom, that in fact was from this, are you classifying it as a fireball, a meteor, a meteorite? How are you classifying it?
This would be technically considered a bolide because it explodes. And when a meteor comes in, it'll just be a normal meteor or a shooting star for like a Bootid or a Perseid meteor. And then the next step up is a fireball where it's brighter than the planet Venus up to the full moon. And when we get brighter than that, especially when it explodes in this terminal flash and it's accompanied with the sonic booms and the meteorites, those are called bolides. And that just means that the body broke apart in its flight in.
So a bolide, so that sounds a little bit more rare. How common do we see those in anywhere on Earth on a given year? Do you have any stats on that?
I mean, the U.S. government has some statistics on the largest bolides that are 1 meter or above on their website, and even still, there's going to be maybe a dozen or more of those events per year. I would guess this event will end up on that site based on the reports that I'm seeing so far. But fireballs and even meteorites are much more common. They actually do fall every week, and we get hundreds of reports like this, or not exactly like this of this magnitude, but we get hundreds of fireball reports a year. And there's usually 10 or more meteorites that are recovered every year across the globe. And now considering most of the planet's ocean, that means there's a lot more meteorites actually hit.
Exactly. And Mike, for those who may have seen it or heard the sonic boom, or maybe they had a dash camera or a Ring doorbell camera that caught that on camera, where can they send reports to you all? How can they do that so that you can better map out the trajectory of who all saw this bolide?
Anyone who saw the meteor or recorded it on a camera can submit that data and the video files through the AMSmeteors.org website. That's the American Meteor Society. And we catalog all of those sightings and make them available through our event page. So if you're interested about this event and you want to see where it might have happened or how your view compared to other people's, you can see our map there.
And let me ask you one more question, Mike. Is it possible that this was associated with that, is it called Boothy meteor shower that's going on? Or could there be more larger meteors or bolides to come? Or do you think this is a one-off event by itself?
These types of events are usually what we call sporadic, meaning they're just random and they aren't associated with some other known meteor shower. I'm going to stick with that. It's not impossible to have a large fragment of a comet also produce a sonic boom. But considering we have reports of rocks on the ground, meteorites can't be associated with a cometary meteor shower. They're always associated with an asteroid.
Well, Mike Henke with the American Meteor Society, you've been so valuable. I know that, minute by minute, you're getting more reports in. Thank you so much for your time today here.
Thank you.
All right, so really interesting stuff. We'll continue to keep you posted here on Live Impact News about this fireball in the sky. Obviously catching a lot of eyeballs. You can always find more information, by the way, on our website, WCNC.com, and inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app if you just want to look over some information, an article that we've got for you right now. And of course, keep it here on Live Impact News. As soon as we get anything new on that front, we'll jump back in and bring it to you. Meantime, we want to get back to our live feed that we're seeing, this press gaggle, if you you will. A lot of reporters speaking to senators as they are leaving this briefing on the Iran strike. And we're hearing, as you might expect, with the One Big Beautiful bill coming up for a vote potentially in the Senate at the end of the week, possibly Friday, we're seeing a lot of senators being questioned on how that vote might go, including here we see South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who is also the chairman of the Budget Committee. So he is taking some questions. Let's listen in live right now.
That's correctly. I do too. But I think all of them perform well. But the ultimate question is, let's say it's 2 years. Let's say it's 10 years. Let's say it's pick a number. The threat still exists as long as Iran, as a nation state, desires to purify Islam, destroy the Jewish state, and come after us. That's what people need to remember. I'm not taking away anything from this operation. I applaud it. I think the people who did it are heroes, but I don't want the American people to think that this is over. It is not over until the regime decides to change their attitude and their behavior. Now, are they weakened? Yes. Can negotiations work? Maybe. They've never been this weak. They've never been on their back heels. So if there's ever a time to get a deal with Iran, it's right now. But here's what I think. There's probably never going to be a deal with these people because they'll never give up their ambitions to destroy Israel, purify Islam, and come after us.
Senator, does this mean you're not particularly confident that a ceasefire will hold?
I asked that question. I don't know what behavior Israel's looking for to consider a breach of the ceasefire. I didn't get an answer to that. But here's what I believe. As long as Iran maintains the position that Israel cannot exist as a state, what do you expect Israel to do?
Saudi Arabia and Israel. Is that
So we're going to just sit on this shot for a moment here on Live Impact News. As we mentioned, we've been seeing senators coming and going. So we're just going to give this a few more moments just to see if there's any more information that we can glean, either about the upcoming One Big Beautiful Bill vote, or the Israel-Iran war, the findings that we're expecting to hear potentially more about with this U.S. strike on Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend, because once again, we are seeing these senators leaving a briefing and they're coming up here to these reporters as they get out of this meeting and answering some questions. So we just want to make sure that we're getting all of the very latest for you. We'll just remind you once again that we have a lot of coverage, extensive coverage on both of these topics, that we've put together a body of reporting over recent weeks. Some really interesting conversations, too, that we've had here on Live Impact News, including most recently a really incredible story of a North Carolina professor who just got back from Israel, who was apparently there on a trip while the retaliatory strikes were coming from Iran to Israel following the initial strikes of Israel to Iran. So we actually have that for you on WCNC.com/watch. So it's in the watch platform, but really interesting read. And we'll continue to bring you more stories as we hear different angles to this situation. It looks like it's getting a bit of a lull here with this briefing circle, so we'll pop back in as we see more folks come. I don't see reporters clearing out, by the way, so they clearly expect some more folks to be coming over. But let's hear from the White House. Meantime, we know that Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has addressed the Israel-Iran situation recently and other big topics, so many big topics to talk about this week, but let's listen into her briefing from today. And once again, if we see anything with the other feed, we'll pop back in.
Afternoon, everybody. Good to see all of you. With President Trump as commander-in-chief, the world is a much safer place. After decades in which past presidents coddled and enabled the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, President Trump finally ended the immediate threat of a nuclear Iranian regime. Following President Trump's command, the most powerful military in the history of the world executed massive precision strikes on 3 of the Iranian regime's key nuclear facilities. The objective of Operation Midnight Hammer was to destroy the regime's nuclear enrichment capacity and stop the grave nuclear threat posed to the United States, Israel, and the rest of the free world. The mission, which will go down in the history books, was an overwhelming success. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Raisin Kane covered the operation in great detail at their briefing this morning at the Pentagon, and I encourage every American to watch it. As President Trump has said repeatedly, the United States of America has the greatest, fiercest, and bravest armed forces ever to stride the face of this earth, and we couldn't be more grateful and proud of our nation's warriors. The Iranian regime was weeks away from being able to produce a nuclear weapon that would threaten the entire world before President Trump took this decisive action on Saturday night to obliterate their nuclear capabilities. The contrast in leadership could not be more clear. Barack Obama and Joe Biden sent pallets of cash, American taxpayer dollars, in a failed attempt to buy the Iranian regime's compliance with a weak and ineffective deal. President Trump sent a fleet of American warplanes to destroy Iran's ability to produce a nuclear weapon. The United States and the entire world are safer because of this president's decisiveness. Despite agenda-driven leaks by the fake news media aimed at undermining this incredible accomplishment achieved by President Trump and our brave fighter pilots, there is broad consensus emerging already that Iran's nuclear capabilities were indeed destroyed. The United States, Israel, the United Nations, and even Iran all agree they can no longer build a nuclear weapon. So why did the president immediately turn to obliterating after the Iranian nuclear threat? Securing peace. Within 48 hours of the devastating strike, President Trump and his team brokered a historic ceasefire between Israel and Iran and officially ended the 12-day war. The Middle East is now shifting away from chaos and bloodshed and moving toward the beginning stages of a new era of peace and stability that President Trump has long called on them to achieve. This was unthinkable at this time last week, and this is what peace through strength looks like. Under President Trump, America will relentlessly advance our interests without being dragged into endless wars. His fearless leadership guarantees America is once again respected across the world. Just look at what he was able to accomplish at the NATO summit in the Netherlands. Many of you were there. Our allies agreed to invest 5% of their GDP annually in defense because President Trump demanded it. This will be the most significant reinforcement of NATO's collective defense in the history of the NATO alliance. And as a result, the United States of America will carry less.
All right, folks, as promised, we are going to break in as we have more senators coming to the press circle here to give updates on that briefing they just received on the Iranian strike. So looks like we've got here Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut speaking. Let's listen in right now, and we'll bring you back to the White House briefing in just a moment.
Right now, we have no final battle damage assessment that would enable us to be comfortable or complacent about what has been done. We are very grateful to the military men and women who performed a feat of military combat that I think will go down in the annals. But their mission was limited to what they could destroy with the tools that they have, and the final assessment will have to indicate to us whether Iran could reconstitute with the centrifuges or nuclear enriched uranium that they have and may have dispersed elsewhere. So we're going to have to see finally what the assessment is.
Senators have come out and some of them have said the program was set back months, some of them have said the program was set back years. Is that too premature for anyone to be talking about?
The point is, we don't know. Anybody who says we know with certainty is making it up because we have no final battle damage assessment. And certainly this mission was successful insofar as it extensively destroyed and perhaps severely damaged and set back the Iranian nuclear arms program. But how long and how much really remains to be determined by the intelligence community itself. And so, you know, frankly, I'm hopeful that we did as much damage as possible because a nuclear armed Iran is an unacceptable threat to the world. I'm rooting for success, but I'm far from comfortable with how much actual damage was done until we finish the final assessment, which our intelligence community is engaged in doing right now. And I hope they work with the Israelis and others who may have knowledge.
Senator, does that mean you're convinced right now or unconvinced about the administration's claim that the Iran nuclear program was obliterated?
I think obliterated is much too strong a word because it implies that it couldn't be reconstituted. Somehow it was completely eliminated. Certainly there was serious, perhaps severe damage done to it. And the use of those 12 bombs in the sites where they were positioned, I think, was serious and substantial. But as to how much damage was done, we really need a final assessment.
And from what you learned, do you believe Iran is now more motivated or less motivated to build a nuclear weapon?
I don't think we have an accurate picture of what Iran's motivation is at this moment in history. Certainly, they reacted with measured and temperate response, but whether that's a head fake and a feint, we don't know at this point. I think there is a significant consensus among the world community that a nuclear armed Iran is a danger not only to the United States and to Israel, but to the world at large. And I'm hoping that diplomacy now will play a part in reaching an ironclad, verifiable agreement that Iran will abandon this program, but we need to be prepared for the worst, even as we hope for the best.
Have you
The
been given
president
a
put out a Truth
timeline?
Social post alleging that Democrats leaked the assessment and should be prosecuted. Do you have any reaction to that?
I have no reason to think that is your question members of Congress or?
I can pull it up. He said Democrats specifically.
Who said that?
The president is on Truth Social. It's right there.
Well, I have no information about who leaked the.
Senator, were you given a timeline on when Congress may be given a final assessment with those outline
Well,
questions?
let me put it this way, because I'm not at liberty to talk about what was said, and so far I haven't. The question about how long a final assessment would take has to be answered by this administration, and so far there's been no answer publicly, and the American people deserve that answer.
Should the Director of National Intelligence be part of that final assessment?
I think everyone and anyone with the capability and knowledge to be part of that assessment should be.
Thank you, Senator.
Hey, everybody.
Senator, do these strikes set back the Iranian nuclear program months or years?
Clearly, damage was inflicted upon the Iranian nuclear program, and we do not want Iran to have the capability to build a nuclear weapon. That has been the position of the United States, of the overwhelming majority of Democrats and Republicans for decades. It is going to take time to get a final assessment of how much damage. The thing that I've had some concern about is when people jump to a conclusion too early. I mean, clearly the president making a comment on Saturday night before any assessment of total obliteration. Listen, I hope that is the final assessment. But if not, does that end up providing a false sense of comfort to the American people, or for that matter, the world? I was glad to hear members down there stand up for the strength and integrity of our intelligence community, how good they are. I hope that would be reflected more often by this administration, and not being willing to blow off or ignore the conclusions of the intelligence community. That is absolutely critical. We do that at our peril. But to get to the point where Iran does not have the ability to enrich uranium that could possibly be used for military purposes, you're going to need diplomacy to work. You're going to need inspectors on the ground. It is clear, and again, this is long before this brief, that some of the enriched uranium was never going to be taken out by a bunker buster bomb. So some of that obviously remains in Iran. So we've got to get to that diplomacy point. We also need to get the full assessment of the level of damage done. And boy, oh boy, I sure hope that some of the extraordinarily strong words that were said about the integrity and quality of our intelligence community, that message will resound in the White House and elsewhere as well.
Do you think that the Director of National Intelligence should be part of that final absence? And what do you make of her absence today?
I make no judgment. I obviously have grave concerns about the DNI, concerns when she literally fired people from the intelligence community because they would not change the intelligence product. That's the way. We only need to say four letters on that, Iraq. That's how we ended up in Iraq. So I was very satisfied to have Director Ratcliffe.
Senator, based on what you learned, do you believe Iran is now more motivated or less motivated to build a nuclear weapon?
There are, obviously, if you don't have all of the enriched uranium eliminated, some of those capabilities exist. And how quick on a rush, particularly for a bomb that wouldn't necessarily be deployed through a missile, is some questions I've still got to answer.
And do you agree with Senator Graham that further military strikes need to
Hi, folks. We apologize for this feed freezing. Just give us a moment. We're going to give it a few moments. Sometimes the feeds get a little bit sticky, and then we kind of give it a second. It will come back. So basically, just a quick wrap of what we heard with our most recent dipping into this press briefing with senators coming out of this update that they received on the strikes on Iran from this past weekend. We actually, in this latest offering, actually heard from two Democrats. Interesting to hear that their tone was a little bit more measured in wanting to make a judgment on how effective those U.S. strikes were. We had heard previously from Democrats who had gotten a similar briefing saying that they felt like there were more assurances that the nuclear program in Iran had been set back more than what's being called the leak report of the initial assessment of just a few months. So we heard from Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat, and then most recently from the Democratic senator from Virginia, Mark Warner, saying that frankly, they believe that it's too soon to tell. They say that the intelligence community needs to do more looking into of the matter, that there needs to be a more final report before they feel confident that they can say that, yes, this was a major strike on Iran that did devastation, as the president has characterized, to Iran's nuclear facilities. All right, so with that, we want to turn here to an issue that we've been seeing popping up at home here in the Carolinas. And unfortunately, that is a situation where we've got lots of landfill fires that are happening because of one specific item. So we're talking about lithium-ion batteries, and we actually wanted to bring this to you because we kept seeing various facilities around our area talking about how this year they've had to respond to multiple fires at their landfills because folks have improperly disposed of these batteries. For example, maybe 4 or 5 fires that we've heard of in the Mecklenburg County area, handful certainly this year. York Recycling just a couple weeks ago reported an incident. Actually, that picture you see right now, that is a picture of that fire. And they say they've had 3 so far this year. So we wanted to speak with the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services about the matter. We have Richard Chesley joining us right now here on Live Impact News, just because we wanted to make sure that we were educating folks on what they need to know about lithium-ion batteries. So Richard, thanks so much for joining us here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, so Richard, walk us through, I guess we'll start with a very basic concept right now of what are lithium-ion batteries. How does somebody know that they have these types of batteries in their house, and how would they know, I guess, that this is that type of battery?
Well, let's begin with the fact there's a good chance that you have a device that has a lithium-ion battery. They're found everywhere, literally, and most often in a cell phone, but there's other products like handheld tools, e-bikes, etc. Just all kinds of things. They're the most popular battery as far as sales, and rechargeable batteries, about 65% or so are lithium-ion. When you buy a product with a rechargeable battery, like a lithium-ion, there's a couple things you can do. Check the packaging to make sure you understand what type of battery it is. If you're still not sure or want to confirm, talk to the clerk or the manager at the retail outlet you got the store. Then when you come home or check the item itself, there should be a label on it to tell you what type of battery is in there. It may be hard to find, but look for your battery compartment, see if there's a label. And fourth, if nothing else, look it up on the internet, see what it says.
Yeah. So why is it so important for folks to know, in the sense of if they are going to have these batteries in their house, or even possibly dispose of a device that might have one of these batteries inside of it? What is so dangerous about simply throwing these batteries in the trash, just like you would any other piece of garbage, that you would just put in the dumpster?
Sure. Yeah. We have to remember, it's important to remember that all batteries can be dangerous. Lithium-ion batteries are a unique battery in that they're high energy and all jammed into a very tiny battery. They're more volatile. They're more volatile in a sense and subject to, if they're damaged or like crushed, like compacted in a garbage truck, something like that, or even they're swelling, whatever, cut, they can explode and catch fire. They're clearly the most dangerous battery out there. We have them, as I mentioned earlier, through all kinds of products we have around our home. But the fundamental point of the battery is it's high energy, it's jammed into a tiny battery, they're more volatile, and consumers need to be careful with that battery and that item when they're doing that. We encourage, when they're using that item, charging that item, whatever, it's important to know that you never put a rechargeable battery in your garbage or in your recycling bin. Depending on what happens, even if it doesn't somehow, if there was previous damage, something doesn't happen earlier, something can happen in the garbage can or the recycling bin. But once they get in the garbage truck, there's a good chance that battery will be compacted, and that compaction can lead to an explosion or fire. Now, the same, and by the way, that's a huge health risk for the drivers, sanitation workers, etc. The same thing can happen when it gets to a recycling facility. There's all kinds of equipment in a recycling facility that sorts and processes the commodities, and that process can damage the battery and, again, cause a fire or explosion.
So what should folks do instead? How do they need to properly dispose of these batteries?
Well, in South Carolina in particular, there are more and more sites available now to recycle. Many programs, local government programs, are offering programs or single-day events. Now, there's always been, since 1994, Call to Recycle has had a nationwide collection system set up where big store retailers, Best Buy, for example, will take batteries back. Lowe's, Home Depot, they'll take the rechargeable batteries back at no cost. In South Carolina, we also have a major recycler we have several, but one in here is working across the state, setting up collection programs at schools and local governments, etc. There's more and more sites being set up, collection sites, where it will be much more convenient for South Carolinians to properly manage that battery. In fact, our agencies will have its own program, a collection center, the first week of July, so we'll be taking batteries from the public.
Now, you had mentioned the fact that not only is this a danger in the sense that it could essentially explode, cause this fire, but you also talked about the health concerns for folks who then have to address the fire, whether that's a sanitation worker or a firefighter. This calls to mind actually a recent incident from New York City. I believe it was last Sunday, so Sunday of last week. There was a 5-alarm fire in the Bronx where 15 people were injured, including a firefighter who was in critical condition. But most of the people injured, you're actually seeing images of the aftermath. I mean, this damaged 3 buildings. This was a big deal. And a lot of firefighters got hurt. They determined that this was actually caused by a lithium-ion battery. And specifically, there were a lot of e-bikes at this property. And so they believe that's kind of where the source would have been. What are some of the health risks to folks who then have to come and fight this type of fire? What makes this so dangerous for them?
Of course, it's always dangerous for a first responder, or particularly a firefighter, when they address a lithium-ion battery fire. They may not know that's what probably don't know that's what caused it to begin with. Having said that, beyond the obvious safety concerns for both first responders and firefighters, the toxic chemicals that are released can particularly hydrogen fluoride, can cause all kinds of health issues as far as breathing, even irritate your eyes, and so on. That's the biggest health risk as far as something actually impacting the first responders right off the bat. Again, I don't want to discount the safety issues they're facing, but that's really the major health issue that first responders have to deal with.
You know, in your experience, and I know that your agency, I understand, doesn't kind of get final counts, if you will, of how many of these specific types of fires happen, let's say, in a month or in a year. But do you have a general idea of how often, agencies will have to see these types of fires when it comes to, solid waste disposal or anything like that?
Well, I think more and more, I'm very disappointed that the state doesn't have, and I don't know that there's not a national accounting system. I've seen a lot of estimates of fires, but we do not have an accurate count. A lot of them are anecdotal of whether it's a lithium-ion battery that caused the fire. And we must understand it takes the professionals to, come up with the final decision on what did cause the fire. We are seeing more and hearing more. In North Charleston this year, I saw a news article where they said there was about 13 fires in the first part of this year based on lithium-ion batteries. That was in just a couple months ago. Now, North Charleston Fire Department, for example, had training to address these fires. But we know there's been a lithium-ion fire at a recycling facility and some other, there may have been one earlier, we've not confirmed it, earlier this week in Lexington County on a garbage truck. We are hearing more about it. We're seeing it now. We're trying to get a system in place where we can track it better. But one of the biggest things we have to do, and I'm so delighted to be here today, is the fact that we can talk about the outreach and education and really ask, in particular, homeowners, residents, consumers, to be careful with the rechargeable batteries, particularly the lithium-ion, and do not put them in a recycling container. Do not put them in your household garbage. South Carolina has lots of places you can take the batteries to be recycled, and a number of those places are growing every week. So we have a great battery site on the web, Be Battery Smart, des.sc.gov, Be Battery Smart. We also have a recycling app, and we put battery information on that app. So it's pretty darn easy for any consumers that want to have more information about what to do and where to recycle, that type of thing. We can help them.
Yeah, I'm so glad we had this conversation as well, just because I feel like, I've been keeping an eye on some of our facilities, not just in South Carolina that are local to us here in Charlotte, but also in the North Carolina side. And yeah, I felt like we kept seeing things getting posted on social media from the agency, every couple of weeks there would be another one that's like, please don't throw these batteries away. It's terrible. It causes a lot of issues. And like you mentioned, there's kind of a wealth of issues that can come with not just throwing the batteries away, but once the fire happens, then folks have to come and address the fire. Before we let you go, is there anything else you want to mention, not just about lithium ions, but is there, another substance, another device, another, item that people need to know about, as far as safe disposal that you see as an issue that, you hear from facilities time and time again, folks keep throwing this item or trying to recycle this item and it's not appropriate?
Not that's a threat to human health or the environment. Not really. The batteries is the trending and hot topic, as it should be. There are other issues, but I would offer food waste. There's so much wasted food that could be handled much more could be handled better, but nothing jumps out. Batteries are a priority for us. We were lucky. We had one of the first campaigns developed in the country, and with our B Battery Smart campaign, and we're in fact adding some posters now, some new posters about protecting firefighters. And of course, as you know, the smaller button or coin batteries are a huge risk to children and some seniors about swallowing them. So, the bigger lithium ion batteries, there's also smaller ones that are coin or button size. So we're just trying to get the word out and make sure we have informed residents that know what to do and what to look for.
Okay. Richard Chesley with the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully folks watching here on Live Impact News feel a little bit more educated on the matter and dispose of those batteries safely.
Thank you.
You take care. Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Uh-huh.
All right, folks, thanks for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. Of course, as we talked about, a lot of big topics rising to the forefront. We were hearing primarily this hour before we jumped on this interview with the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, a lot of discussion about the U.S. strikes over the weekend on suspected Iranian nuclear facilities. So we've been hearing from various senators that just got out of a briefing today, senators on both sides of the aisle, and we also have been hearing from the White House as well, weighing in. So we were listening in with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt with the White House. We certainly heard her addressing that topic to start. So we can bring you back to that briefing in progress right now. And as always, here on Live Impact News, we'll break in as we get any new developments on any front.
National security and fuel our people. Later this afternoon here at the White House, the president will host a One Big Beautiful event in the East Room to rally Republicans to get the One Big Beautiful bill across the finish line. At that event, he will be joined by everyday Americans from across the country who will massively benefit from the common sense policies and provisions within this bill. This is the largest tax cut for working and middle-class Americans in history, and it's going to put more money into the pockets of hardworking Americans. Families will see an average increase in take-home pay of more than $10,000 per year. Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 per year will see a 15% tax cut. Overtime and tipped workers will save thousands of dollars annually. And our amazing seniors will receive historic financial relief by reducing the tax burden on their Social Security benefits. Simply put, this bill is going to unlock the golden age of America. And we look forward to continuing to work with the Senate and the House to see this bill on the president's desk for signature by Independence Day. Here in our new media seat today, we have Colin Anderson with the Washington Free Beacon, who will kick off our question and answer. Colin, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. We reported yesterday on a briefing from the Israeli defense minister in which she said the U.S. and Israel are working together to monitor any attempts from Iran to rebuild their nuclear program, and also that if Iran was to do so, the U.S. and Israel would work together to once again destroy that nuclear program. Is that aligned with the president's thinking?
Look, the president, as I said in those opening remarks, Colin, and thanks for being with us today, views the Middle East on its way to peace and prosperity. And the president used strength on Saturday night. The whole world saw that the United States is indeed the most lethal fighting force in the world with those precision strikes on Saturday evening. But the president wants peace. He always has. And right now we're on a diplomatic path with Iran. The president and his team, namely Special Envoy Witkoff, continue to be in communication with the the Iranians and especially our Gulf and Arab partners in the region to come to an agreement with Iran. As for our alliance with the State of Israel and that friendship and that partnership between the United States and the State of Israel, I would argue it has never been stronger. And we see a new era in which perhaps some of these Gulf and Arab states can sign on to the Abraham Accords. That was one of the president's most signature accomplishments in his first term, and he'd like to see more of those countries sign on in this second term. And so we look forward to sustaining a long and durable peace in the region, and the president wants to do that through a diplomatic solution. But as he proved on Saturday night, he's not afraid to use strength if we need to do it. Gabe.
Thanks, Caroline. The president mentioned in a Truth Social post that no enriched uranium was moved from Fordow. What about the other two sites, Isfahan and Natanz? And how can the president be so sure that no uranium was moved?
Well, what I can assure you is that the United States and our intelligence agencies and Director Ratcliffe and the President's entire national security team were obviously watching these sites very closely in the weeks and the days leading up to the attack on Saturday, which I will add was one of the most secretive and successful operations in United States history. I think many of you in this room would agree with that because none of you in this room knew about the strike on Saturday until it took place. So we were watching closely, and there was no indication to the United States that any of that enriched uranium was moved prior to the strike.
From any of the sites?
Correct.
And then one more thing, Caroline. Next week, the president mentioned that there would be talks with Iran. Didn't mention any details, and Iran has not confirmed them. Can you share any details about any potential talks next week?
We don't have anything scheduled as of now, but I spoke to our Special Envoy Witkoff at length this morning, and I can assure all of you we continue to be in close communication with the Iranians and through our intermediaries as well, namely the Qataris, who have been an incredible ally and partner throughout this entire effort. And as I said, this administration is always focused on diplomacy and peace, and we want to ensure we can get to a place where Iran agrees to a non-enrichment civil nuclear program, and there are many other requests that the United States has. Those details continue to really, they're just starting. Of course, the operation was just on Saturday night, but we are in touch, and if there is a meeting, we will let you know as we always do. Brian.
Thank you, Caroline. It's two. One on trade. On the July deadline that's coming up for the trade deals, is that deadline still hard and fast for the president, or is he now considering even coming to trade deals after that deadline, and where is he on that going forward?
I think the president has been asked this quite a few times by many of you in the media. I've heard him answer it at press conferences and at gaggles. He just spoke about it on Air Force One. The deadline is not critical. The president can simply provide these countries with a deal if they refuse to make us one by the deadline, and that means the president can pick a reciprocal tariff rate that he believes is advantageous for the United States and for the American worker, and he will continue to do that. But as for the deals, our United States Trade Ambassador, Jameson Greer, I speak to him frequently. He's working very hard, and he has had very good and productive discussions with many of our key trading partners.
And on the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's conversations on the Hill right now about the Medicaid cuts. Yeah, I'm curious if the final bill that the president's been talking about comes to him and it has Medicaid cuts in it, will he sign it, or would he rather just Congress do away with those cuts?
I think our friends in both the Senate and the House know exactly where the president stands on Medicaid. He wants to get rid of the